Chapter 864. On this journey, Lu Chen traveled as a native. At times, he lacked the stamina to walk and would encounter the East Pole Nation soldiers who had captured able-bodied men. However, these soldiers did not seem interested in him and allowed him to leave. With only one arm, he could not even grab a hoe. He was of no help at all and even had an additional mouth to feed. No, there were two mouths. That fellow was carrying one on his back. Lu Chen immediately found his niche. He was a native nanny who wandered the world with a baby. Sigh, it's too tragic. Lu Chen continued traveling as though he had nothing to live for. The little beast deity would eat an origin crystal fragment every day, as well as some beast cores as snacks. The rocks were crunched in his mouth and the only thing that was similar to other babies was his milk bottle. Only when the little beast deity was drinking from his milk bottle could Lu Chen treat him like a normal baby. It had been more than half a month since they left White Lion Nation. The little beast deity could already walk on his own. However, in order to continue acting as a nanny, Lu Chen forcefully pressed him into his back. Speaking of which, Lu Chen and company often slept in the wilderness along the way, but they did not encounter any other demonic beasts. The little beast deity could only play with furball and rhubarb. In the past half a month, it was said that East Pole Nation had been attacked more than 10 times. Now that the borders were unstable, prophecies of the heavenly tribulation were everywhere. The various garrison troops were deployed daily, leaving everyone in a state of panic. However, there was a benefit to this. Lu Chen did not encounter any obstructions as he passed through East Pole Nation and entered the Chu Tianshan mountain range. Standing on a tall mountain, Lu Chen looked into the distance. There was a towering mountain in the distance that stood out among the other mountains. It reached straight for the clouds. That's Chu Tianshan. That's right. The origin god had conjured an avatar and stood beside Lu Chen. Lu Chen glanced sideways at the middle-aged man who looked about his age. He had average looks, a medium build, and a stubble. He said with a frown, "You have recovered your spiritual powers. You can even conjure an avatar. Didn't you say that this would consume a lot of spiritual energy?" The origin god thought nothing of it. This is Chu Tianshan. Even if the spirit meridians haven't been completely activated, the spirit chi here is a lot more abundant than other places. The origin god can maintain this form around here. I see that you're quite lonely, so I'll accompany you to the end of this journey. I don't feel lonely, origin god was a little embarrassed. Along the way, he could see that Solipsistic was really a straight guy. I really don't understand. You're such an idiot. What does Kong Luo Yao see in you? She likes me. That's impossible. Are you an idiot? If she didn't like you, would she have waited for you for 7 days and 7 nights above the abyss? Also, wasn't she the one who took care of you before? With her status, she has been taking care of you all this time. Isn't that because she likes you? You're thinking too much. I think our relationship should be that of a pure comrade in arms. Lu Chen walked towards Chu Tianshan as he said, "Trust me, when a woman is nice to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that she likes you. She might just be pitying you." The origin god shook his head in anger. I really want to kick him. You have a negative EQ and you actually want to teach me. Forget it. I can't reason with someone like you. Lu Chen said indignantly, "If you're so powerful, did you have a wife back then? As the strongest of the natives, you should have countless admirers." The origin god was taken aback as well. Over the past few thousand years, countless people had obtained the origin god token. Every one of them carefully guarded the origin god token. They also treated the origin god with reverence. Yet, this fellow actually asked him if he had a wife. I don't. You don't understand. I don't have the time to talk about relationships. Lu Chen immediately laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, you dare criticize me? You're worse than me. The Origin God finally decided not to discuss these issues with Lu Qin. Otherwise, he would really be angered to death by this fellow. Lone tyrant, how did you get your beast god? Origin God suddenly asked. So he is the beast god. I have only heard of his existence in ancient legends, but I have only heard of his name, Origin God suddenly said. Lu Qin roughly explained the synthesis process. Actually, all you need to do is gather 18 top-level battle pets and the beast god synthesis stone to synthesize. There's no technical skill involved. The Origin God did not reply for a long time. After a while, the Origin God said, I seem to have heard some immortal cultivators say that a level 4 boss is unkillable. Its star annihilation can destroy heaven and earth. No battle soul can withstand it. You killed a level 4 boss. It's not unkillable. As long as you stay in the star annihilation for 10 minutes, you'll discover that the star annihilation is not the extreme Yin Nether Glow's skill. Instead, it's the extreme Yang illumination hiding underground. Once you discover the extreme Yang illumination, things will be easier, Lu Qin said as he pushed aside the branches in front of him. Staying in the star annihilation for 10 minutes. How did you survive? Spirit Qi refinement. It was rare to meet a top-level expert. Lu Qin finally had a chance to tell the truth. By the way, Origin God, do you have Spirit Qi refinement at level 5? After I reached level 5, the effects of Spirit Qi refinement were greatly reduced. I can't resist other people's skills. Lu Qin voiced his doubts. You mean Spirit Qi refinement? The Origin God was a little embarrassed. As a man who was called God, being asked such a question was a little awkward. Ahem, I don't. But I have a similar state, the Origin God said. Origin God said, those things are considered realm-type skills. For example, the sword mind and sword heart of the sword are all states. One's mental state is also a profound skill. To improve such skills, one has to rely on luck and comprehension. What do you know? The Origin God smiled slightly. He finally talked about his area of expertise. I feel the same. Feel the same? What kind of state is that? Lu Qin asked. Putting yourself in the opponent's shoes, as if you are the enemy in front of you. Then, you can simulate the opponent's possible prediction and change your attack according to the prediction. When I activate the state of feeling the same, it is rare to meet a worthy opponent. The Origin God said proudly. In the battle with Devil Beast Sovereign, it was because of the same feeling that I had the ability to fight with him. Lu Qin frowned slightly. By the way, Devil Beast Sovereign has a move that should shatter the opponent's internal organs. How do you deal with it? Speaking of Devil Beast Sovereign, the Origin God couldn't help but frown. It was as if that unprecedented battle was still in front of him. You should be talking about Devil Beast Sovereign's state, resonance. Resonance. It should be. He can shatter a person's internal organs and even spirit stones. Is it also a state of controlling Spirit Qi? The Origin God frowned and stood in place. Lu Qin stopped and looked at the Origin God strangely. Do you know how I deal with resonance? Lu Qin shook his head. The Origin God's eyes were filled with mixed emotions. Finally, he said, I couldn't completely block it. Lu Qin was taken aback. Couldn't completely block it? That meant that the Origin God's internal organs had been destroyed. Was it because of this that the Origin God had no choice but to self-destruct his spirit core? Either you can figure out a stronger state than him, or you can only rely on your physical strength to withstand it. There's no other way. With that said, the Origin God finally took a step forward and continued heading for Chu Tianshan. Chapter 865. Chu Tianshan, which was often visited by demonic beasts, had not encountered a single one. It's possible that the 4 heavenly kings guarding this place have already left, said the Origin God. Lu Chen did not react. The four heavenly kings had no intention of stopping him from reactivating the spirit vein. He actually wished that one of the four heavenly kings was here. That way, he would have a chance of defeating them one by one, preventing him from having to face the four heavenly kings or even the 7 generals. 8 Eyes and 8 Tails were dead, but there was no guarantee that they could find replacements. In my era, the entire Chu Tian Shan mountain range was filled with people cultivating. But now, there's not a single immortal cultivator to be seen. Lu Chen said, usually, there should be sects nearby. Now that we're at the 5th firmament, it's already very rare to have such rich spiritual energies. There must be sects occupying the nearby mountain range. However, with the current war, they have probably been recruited to prepare for war. That's good too. It saves us the trouble. With that said, Lu Chen summoned Rhubarb. Rhubarb, lead the way. Let's hurry. After walking for a day, Lu Chen and company were still halfway up the mountain. They only reached the peak of Chu Tian Shan on the evening of the 2nd day. Looking down the mountain, it was already filled with white clouds. The surrounding mountain range appeared especially short beneath their feet. Clouds lingered around them, making them feel like they were in an immortal realm. Chu Tianshan's peak was not steep. On the contrary, the peak seemed to have been flattened. There was a relatively flat region. Just as Lu Chen stepped onto the flat land, he realized that there was an array talisman beneath his feet that emitted a sliver of spiritual energy. There's no 4 heavenly kings, but there's an array formation. Following the array formation, there was a gigantic meteorite floating in the middle of the array. The meteorite's exterior was abnormally cratered. Its surface was filled with potholes and tiny holes. When the mountain wind blew, it emitted a howling sound from the tiny holes. It's an extraterrestrial meteorite. Lu Chen said in surprise. That's right. It's indeed a meteorite. In the past, we called it, Heavenly Star. It fell from outer space many years ago and later became one of the 5 spirit veins of the Qin planet. The Heavenly Star's spirit vein's spiritual energy radiates throughout the 4 countries of the Great Wilderness, and more than half of the Western Kingdom. Lu Chen nodded. At this time, besides the fact that this heavenly star was floating in the air, there was nothing special about it. Origin God, can you break this ceiling formation? Yes. But I'm just a phantom now, and I didn't set up this array formation, so I can't help you break it. Origin God said decisively, this array is called the Buddha Purgatory Spirit Lock Array. When breaking the array, not only do you need sufficient spiritual chi, you also need to break through the 1024 array cores in order. With your spiritual power and physical strength, I estimate that you can only open 64 formation eyes in one day, and it will take you about 16 days to break the formation. Fuck. 1024 array cores, it would take 16 days to break the array. This is already considered very little. Do you think a formation that can seal this kind of spiritual source would be simple? Lu Chen shook his head. He was in a hurry to begin with. Now, it would take him half a month just to break the array. Remember to be impatient when breaking the formation. Don't use your spirit energy storm. Consume all your spirit pills and then cultivate here to replenish them. Don't take any spirit pills with impure auras. If you do this repeatedly, I'm guessing it will be beneficial for your spirit energy. Really? I'm guessing. I don't know how to use spirit energy. Hiss. Lu Chen rolled his eyes at Origin God. This guy really spoke the truth. Fortunately, with Origin God's help, Lu Chen didn't need to think about how to break the array. He only needed to open the array cores one by one. Since he knew the method, Lu Chen began to cultivate. Rhubarb, Hairy Ball, and the little beast god brought Lu Yi to the surroundings to gather herbs while Lu Chen focused on breaking the array. Chaos Spiritual Pills. Lu Chen directly used the Chaos Spiritual Pills to provide Chaos Spiritual Qi. After all, This was his most basic source of spiritual qi, and it was the same as all other types of spiritual qi. Comprehending chaos spiritual qi was the most basic comprehension. The first array core, North Heaven's Qian position. Sit here and slowly inject spiritual qi. Remember, more haste, less speed. The spiritual qi needs to be injected evenly. Once the spiritual qi is injected too fiercely, it will cause a backlash from the photo-purgatory and force you into the photo-purgatory's illusory realm. At that time, the illusory realm will be linked and it will be difficult for you to escape. Remember. Origin God said. Lu Chen activated the celestial demon symbiosis and started to inject spiritual qi into the runes. At the same time, he activated the spirit energy refinement and entered the selfless state. At this moment, Lu Chen couldn't feel his body. It was as if his body had become transparent. Only a black bead was rotating slowly. Black spiritual qi constantly escaped from the bead and flowed through his meridians into the runes below him. Ever since he mastered the spirit energy refinement and the selfless state, this was the first time Lu Chen looked inside his body. This time, he seemed to be able to feel the flow of spiritual qi more clearly. It was like a mountain stream flowing slowly. The water was neither fast nor slow, and it flowed endlessly. More than 10 minutes later, the runes of the first array core lit up. Following that, Lu Chen turned to the second array core, the South Heaven's Qian position. The third array core, the West Heaven's Li position. The fourth array core, the Little North Heaven's Dui position. The photo-purgatory spirit sealing array had 132 large and small heavens. There were 8 array cores each. When cracking the array, the order was completely out of the ordinary. He didn't crack them one by one. Instead, he jumped around randomly. Lu Chen was alarmed. If not for the Origin God, it was unknown how long it would have taken him to crack the array. When he reached the fourth array core, a gentle voice sounded. Solipsistic, remember to exhaust all your spiritual qi. Don't leave any behind. More than 10 minutes later, Lu Chen's spiritual qi in his spirit core was depleted. Don't shift. Take this opportunity to cultivate and recover your spirit core, continued the Origin God. Lu Chen quickly activated the celestial demon chaos essence cultivation technique. Any cultivation technique had the ability to replenish spiritual qi. As a top-notch cultivation technique, the celestial demon chaos essence cultivation technique was no exception. However, if it wasn't used to increase one's spiritual strength, the celestial demon chaos essence cultivation technique could be used to replenish spiritual qi at an astonishing speed. What kind of cultivation technique are you using? The Origin God's voice sounded again. It's too fast. You can't sense the spiritual qi in detail like this. Slow down. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Cultivating too fast. There was someone who found the spiritual qi replenishment too fast. Lu Chen switched to the original, demonic beast breathing technique. There shouldn't be anything slower than this. You are too slow. What kind of lousy cultivation technique is this? This time, you must have missed the process of sensing from nothing to something. Next time, remember, when your spiritual core dries up, use this mental cultivation method to sense the process of spiritual energy generation in your spiritual core. Cultivate for a few minutes and exchange it for your advanced mental cultivation method. I really have to hand it to you. You are either so fast or so slow. Don't you have a mid-grade cultivation technique? Lu Chen really wanted to beat the Origin God up. He was the one who said it was fast, but he was also the one who said it was slow. How could one have a cultivation technique just because they wanted it? Forget it. That guy was just a virtual image. He couldn't hit him. He could only endure it. He had to hurry up and crack the array. Chapter 866. A few days ago, Lu Chen could only open 50 array cores a day. His energy could no longer keep up. Later, under the guidance of the Origin God, Lu Chen slowed down the rate of spiritual energy infusion. Although the speed of opening array cores slowed down, the number of cores he could open each day began to increase. 55, 60, 65, 70. His energy even allowed him to open more array cores. However, in order to continue opening array cores, he had to rest on time. After 15 days, Lu Chen had already opened the last few array cores. At this time, he could faintly see the shadow of a giant beast in the array. That thing is. Lu Chen stopped and looked at the giant beast in shock. It's actually him. The face of a human and the body of a dragon. Its dragon hair danced in the wind, and it held a giant candle in its mouth, Torch Dragon. This time, Lu Chen actually felt that this fellow's status seemed to be lower. Torch Dragon, holding a candle, can illuminate the land of 9 Yin. The Origin God said. This fellow is the strongest among the 4 heavenly kings of the demonic beasts. If you meet him in the future, be careful of his candle. How can he be below the winged dragon? Lu Chen asked. The Origin God replied, even humans have differences in strength. It's the same between divine beasts. What's more, the demonic beast sovereign is not a simple winged dragon. Its strength is truly terrifying. Lu Chen nodded. So that's how it is. Stop looking. Since you have decided to open all the spirit veins, don't worry about the 4 heavenly kings recovering their strength. Continue to open the array. Okay. At the last 2 array cores, Lu Chen suddenly stopped. What? Did you gain anything? The Origin God asked hurriedly. Over 1,000 times, Lu Chen went from filling to drying up, and then from drying to filling again. He repeatedly experienced the changes in the primordial chaos spirit pill, and his familiarity with the spiritual energy within his body had reached an unprecedented level. Lu Chen shook his head. My spiritual energy perception has become more sensitive. There is also the state of selflessness. I can do as I please, but there is no qualitative change. Origin God furrowed his brows and sighed. This state is not something that can be broken through just because you want to. Otherwise, I would have already passed on the pain sensed to you. Without any qualitative changes, there is no need to rush it. Prepare to open the spirit vein. Remember, the spirit veins here are different from the origin crystals. Heavenly stars come from outer space, and the spirit energy here is violent and without consciousness. You can only cultivate for 10 days before the spirit veins fully awaken. When the spiritual energy erupts, my virtual image will not be able to withstand it. The rest is up to you. With that, the Origin God returned to the Origin God badge. Lu Chen also greeted Rhubarb and the others and prepared to leave at any time. On that day, Lu Chen adjusted his condition to its peak and broke through the last array core of the Foot of Purgatory spirit locking array. At the instant the array core opened, the entire Chushan mountain began to quake. The gigantic meteorite began to spin rapidly, and a vast amount of spirit chi gushed out like a tsunami following its rotation. Fortunately, Heavenly Star had yet to fully recover, and Lu Chen could still resist the spiritual energy storm. Holy shit, Heavenly Star's spirit chi is so powerful. Lu Chen quickly sat cross-legged amidst the raging winds. I wonder what aspect of strength this Heavenly Star can strengthen. Lu Chen quickly entered a cultivation state. The moment he closed his eyes, Lu Chen felt as though his psyche had been sucked out of his body as he was sucked into an empty space. After experiencing what felt like an intergalactic transmigration, Lu Chen suddenly landed on an unknown planet. The planet was many times bigger than Earth. At the instant Lu Chen landed, he felt an extremely terrifying gravitational pull. Even though his physical strength far exceeded the limits of ordinary humans, he found it difficult to stand the moment he landed. He knelt to the ground until he was completely sprawled on the ground. His entire body was under immense pressure. This Lu Chen had a hideous expression as he tried his best to resist the gravitational pull. Moments later, Lu Chen felt that although he was unable to move, he was finally able to resist the gravitational pull. He looked at the world around him and was even more alarmed. This place was completely dark. Countless volcanoes were erupting around him. Lava soared into the sky and heavy rain fell from the sky, washing the entire world. Most of the area was seawater. Under the effect of the raging winds and volcanic eruptions, terrifying waves were set off. Smoke, steam, magma, torrential rain, gales, tsunamis, flooded this chaotic world. This made Lu Chen recall the popular science programs he saw on TV. During the early days of Earth's formation, it was probably like this. At this time, there shouldn't be any life existing. Where is this? Lu Chen was astonished. But then he thought of a possibility. If the origin crystal is the origin stone of Tai star, then could this planet be the original world of Heavenly Star? Heavenly Crystal had traveled an unknown distance in the vast universe and consumed an unimaginable amount of spirit chi. But after landing on Tai star, the spirit chi it contained was even more violent than the origin crystal. It could be seen how terrifying the original Heavenly Crystal was. This violent world was actually very compatible with the Heavenly Crystal's violent spirit chi. My consciousness should have been pulled by the Heavenly Crystal's consciousness to its original world. I don't know if cultivating here is considered as cultivating. I only have 10 days. Every spirit chi vein is crucial for cultivating. I can't waste it. Lu Chen struggled to sit up. Damn it. Divine Devil Symbiosis. Lu Chen directly activated the Divine Devil Symbiosis state and crawled up. It was definitely not easy to maintain concentration in this kind of environment. If Lu Chen hadn't gone through more than 1,000 training sessions, it would be very difficult for him to enter the cultivation state so quickly in this kind of environment. The main body here shouldn't be my body. Then I should directly activate the Anatta state. Chaos Spirit Pill. Anatta, Spirit Chi Subtlety, two great states were activated at the same time. After entering this state, Lu Chen immediately discovered that this world had changed. What spewed out from the volcanoes was no longer boiling hot magma but a large amount of spirit chi. Between heaven and earth, countless spirit chi collided with each other, forming this chaotic world. Is this what the world looks like when it first formed? Lu Chen was attracted by this scene and continued to perceive everything around him. He even forgot to cultivate his own spirit chi. What shocked Lu Chen was that in this purgatory-like world of evil, there was the aura of life in the seawater. Moreover, it wasn't like the primitive single-celled organisms on Earth. It was a giant sea beast. Although they weren't divine beasts, their bodies were huge, exceeding 1,000 meters. There's actually life in this kind of place. Yeah, didn't life also form in the early stages of Earth's formation? Everything was formed in this kind of inconceivable environment, giving birth to life here. Destruction followed construction, no construction without destruction. Order was born from chaos. Weren't all things born from this chaos? It turned out that he had never unleashed the power of the Chaos Spirit Pill. Everything had Spirit Chi, and the Chaos Spirit Chi gave birth to all kinds of Spirit Chi. At this moment, Lu Chen suddenly felt a flash of light in his mind. It was as if a layer of shackles that he had been unable to break through was instantly seen through at this moment. Chapter 867. 10 days later, Lu Chen was immersed in this subtle feeling in Heavenly Star's source world. His spirit chi minute subtlety had become more sensitive, and the selfless state was more flexible. Most importantly, he had comprehended another state. This was a state that was based on the Chaos Spiritual Pill, combined with spirit chi minute subtlety and the selfless state. It could also be understood as an upgraded version of spirit chi minute subtlety. 10 days later, Lu Chen was thrown out of Heavenly Star's source world. His consciousness returned to his main body. When Lu Chen opened his eyes, he realized that Chu Tianfeng had already begun to collapse. The sky was falling and the earth was sinking, as though it was the end of the world. Heavenly Star's energy is about to fully recover. Rhubarb, Furball, let's go. Lu Chen leaped up and hugged the little beast god. He recalled the two beasts, spread his wings, and soared into the sky. Spirit Chi turbulence had already appeared in the sky. Lu Chen's figure was like a kite with a broken string in the sky. He would try his best to adjust himself and rush out. When Lu Chen rushed out of Heavenly Star's area of influence, he landed on a mountain peak. Damn, Heavenly Star's spiritual energy eruption is so intense. I almost couldn't get out. Looking from afar, the sky was already falling and the earth was cracking. A large portion of Chu Tianfeng's terrain had already changed. The surrounding mountains were compressing towards Chu Tianfeng. Chu Tianfeng would probably be even taller in the future. The Heavenly Star spirit vein had been fully reactivated. Lu Chen looked at his mission status. The Heavenly Pool, Origin Crystal, and Heavenly Star spirit veins had all been successfully reactivated. Out of the 5 ancient spirit veins, only 2 remained. The Origin God's voice suddenly sounded. Kid, what happened to you previously? My consciousness was sucked into Heavenly Star, into its world of wishes. Oh. SSS. Heavenly Star spirit vein is indeed different from other spirit veins. I heard that one cannot get too close to Heavenly Star spirit vein, as it can make one lose their consciousness. Sigh, it's a pity that I wasted my cultivation time. This kind of cultivation opportunity is hard to come by. Lu Chen originally wanted to say that it was not like he had gained nothing. Just at this time, Lu Chen discovered that the ground beneath his feet was cracking. The Heavenly Star had already affected this side. He hastily brought the little beast god and retreated. Even after escaping the Chu Tian mountain range, Lu Chen forgot about the matter and continued rushing to the next spirit vein. Penglai Immortal Realm. Penglai is surrounded by the sea on 3 sides. If the demon beasts invade, they will be in great danger. The Origin God said, in the last great divine devil war, Penglai suffered heavy losses in the early stages of the war and almost perished. Lu Chen frowned. Is it a magical beast from the sea? That's right. Compared to the demonic beasts on land, the underwater ones are more difficult to deal with. They can attack from 3 sides and move very quickly. The coastal defense line of Penglai couldn't withstand them at all and was overrun within 10 days. They could only retreat to the rear and barely hold on with the West Kingdom's garrison behind them. Lu Chen asked again, is the 4th spirit vein in the sea? Go to Penglai. Where else can I go if not in the sea? Lu Chen shook his head. I hate fighting at the bottom of the sea. I have deep sea phobia. Deep sea phobia? What's that? There's nothing to worry about. I'll help you break the array. As for the demon beasts, I think the fellows guarding the spirit vein have already left. The 4 heavenly kings of the demon beasts can't wait for you to open the spirit vein. It's good enough that they didn't send anyone to fetch you. The Origin God couldn't be serious when he was with Lu Chen and joked. However, Lu Chen didn't find it funny. The Origin God was right. He was helping the demon beast army increase their strength. There were tactics that could harm oneself by 800 and harm the enemy by 1000. Now, he was helping the enemy increase their strength by 800 and himself by 1000, however, the enemy only increased their strength by 800. Could he really increase it by 1000? What are you thinking? Lu Chen sighed and didn't say a word. The Origin God saw that Lu Chen wasn't speaking and said, by opening the spirit vein, you are constantly increasing the stakes. The stakes this time might be the billions of lives of the entire level 5. Instead, you are constantly increasing the stakes. Normal people wouldn't make such a choice. Lu Chen frowned slightly. I only know that I am the one who is increasing the stakes. So, I can't lose. At the same time, level 4. Lu Yi, Xuangling, Shuang Shui, Saintis, Cowherd, Beishue Gufei, Dongfang Ji, Jingui Yanran, Moran, and about 20 other strong fighters from Earth were standing in front of the Tongtian Tower. Lu Yi looked up at the Tongtian Tower that reached the clouds. Tongtian Tower. After passing this place, it would be the 5th heavenly layer. Earth's Guide project was becoming more and more effective. After more and more people entered level 4, the United Front Department chose Lu Yi, Xingchen, and about 20 other strong fighters to focus on training. They gathered all resources and prioritized training these people. Lu Yi was originally in a dangerous situation and might not be able to enter the list of the strongest 20. However, her brother gave her more than a dozen elixirs and changed the situation. In the final selection, Lu Yi emerged as a new force and successfully entered the list. Yi, what are you thinking about? Beishue Gufei stood beside Lu Yi and asked. My brother is right in front. Lu Yi said. This time, because of Lu Qin, many strong fighters deliberately waited for the Earth players to enter the tower together. Among them was a super strong fighter like Xuangling. After Xuangling waited for her sister to enter level 4, the Tongtian Tower had already reopened. Originally, she could have entered the tower directly, but when she heard that Lu Yi and the others were going to enter the tower, she waited for half a year. If Lu Qin was here, he might not be surprised that Lu Yi and the others were here. Instead, he would have noticed another person. There seemed to be a strange person in the group of strong fighters. Cowherd was also in this group. Cowherd laughed and said to Xuangling, Lady Xuang, I can only take a ride with you guys this time. Xuangling smiled slightly. Elder Cowherd, what are you saying? I heard that you are ridiculously strong now. Sigh, I'm not the strong one. It's the strong one. Cowherd said embarrassedly. I originally wanted to retire in level 3, but I'm still worried about that stinky brat. I want to see him again. Right now, that guy's reputation on our planet is even higher than mine. I'm jealous. Xuangling smiled. Elder Cowherd, did you tell the people on your planet about him? I did. After all, we went to level 3 together. I couldn't not mention him even if I wanted to. Do you know what happened in the end? Now, all the young people on our planet worship him. I regret it. Looking at Cowherd's smiling face, he didn't really regret it. Xuangling looked at the Tongtian Tower. Elder Cowherd, you don't have to mind it. No matter where that guy goes, he will be the center of attention. After all, he is the solipsistic emperor. The Saintess was talking to some of the leaders of the savage tribes. She was trying to break through level 5 with the mission of opening a path for the entire tribe. This time, she might not be able to return for a long time. Naturally, there were many things that she was worried about. At this moment, the Saintess finally walked over after instructing her subordinates. Sorry for the wait. Let's go in. Chapter 868. From the Great Wasteland South Pole to Penglai, Lu Qin heard more and more about the invasion of magical beasts. The southern border of the Great Wasteland South Pole was attacked every day, and the attacks were getting stronger and stronger. At the same time, there were several incidents of spirit stone mines being attacked. At this time, wars were frequent, and the various countries no longer had the time to care about spirit stone mines. It seemed that the magical beast army's probing attacks could also help magical beast sovereign attack spirit stone mines. Along the way, Lu Qin also saw more refugees. After the construction of the city was completed, a large number of natives were arranged around the city to provide for the daily needs of the city. The old, weak, women, and children who had no labor force were directly driven out of the range of the city defense array. The natives were not stupid. Without the protection of the city defense array, they would only be cannon fodder if they encountered the magical beast army, so they looked for a hidden place to live. Wars broke out everywhere, and refugees migrated. Correspondingly, a large number of bandits began to appear everywhere, blocking the roads and robbing people. Lu Qin even saw the bodies of the natives on the roadside. They were not the work of magical beasts, but were probably killed by humans. At this time, Lu Chen's greatest feeling was that the world was in chaos, and the people had no way to make a living. However, Lu Chen did not interfere with these matters. He continued to advance toward the Penglai immortal realm. There's no one left in the small towns. I haven't replenished my supplies for a long time. Lu Chen shook his head and washed his hair with the soap horn shampoo made by Lu Yi. During this period, he felt that he was becoming more and more worthy of his cultivation level. 1-star wilderness cultivator. Damn, the higher the level, the more wild I feel. Give him a platform, and he could start a wilderness survival livestream. After washing his hair, he washed his clothes, started a fire, fished, and ate. However, the little beast god was now able to run around on its own. It was wearing the tattered clothes that Lu Chen took from the big sister refugee's wheelbarrow. It was having a lot of fun playing with Big Yellow and Little Furball. This fellow ate origin crystal fragments and beast cores every day and grew very quickly. It now looked like a 3 or 4-year-old kid. Just as Lu Chen was busy, the origin god token lit up. Solipsistic, is your original world called Earth? Lu Chen turned to the grilled fish on the fire with a puzzled expression. How did you know? Some people from the Eastern Peak Nation came from the 4th layer of heaven. They asked about you, so I paid attention. Lu Chen's eyes were filled with astonishment. Could it be that the Earthlings had come to the 5th heaven? Speaking of which, he had been in the 5th heaven for more than a year. When he first returned to Earth, he had asked Lu Yi. The first time, Lu Yi said there were 2,000 people, and the second time, she said there were 8,000 people. In short, the development was very fast. However, being able to come to the 5th layer of heaven in such a short time was still beyond Lu Chen's expectations. Is the mentor plan really that awesome? Lu Chen shook his head. Sigh, progenitor god, do you know who they are? I don't know the details. I only know that most of them are from Earth. I only know that the royal family of the Eastern Peak Nation seems to have contacted them. If that's the case, they should be safe for the time being. Ah. The royal family of the Eastern Peak Nation? Lu Chen was shocked. Although he was familiar with Luo Yao, at the same time, he had almost killed the people of the martial imperial household. In addition, 2 months ago, he had killed a royal guard, so he was not sure what the Eastern Peak Nation's royal family's attitude towards him was. You silly boy, I said don't worry, so you can rest assured. Is there anyone in the royal family who doesn't know? Luo Yao. Lu Chen frowned. But don't you know that I almost killed one of their kings? Is Luo Yao more important than that king? Wait until you find out the answer yourself. Since progenitor god was unwilling to say, Lu Chen did not ask. I don't know if Lu Yi is here. Last time, she was in the first batch to go to the 4th layer of heaven, but the competition among the strong people on Earth is getting more and more intense. Lu Chen was most concerned about his sister. I don't know who else came up this time other than the people from Earth. The teleportation portals are not in operation now, so you can only enter but not leave. There is no chance to leave this place. Lu Chen passed by several cities with teleportation portals. Unfortunately, under the emergency national order, all the portals were closed and no one was allowed to leave the 5th layer of heaven. This was understandable. After all, if everyone ran away, there would be no point in fighting the Great Divine Infernal War. There was a sense of desperation. Of course, as an immortal cultivator, it was necessary to protect the 5th layer of heaven at all costs. For every race, even those with advantages, no one would directly enter the Jiutian from the 6th layer of heaven. This was their foundation, and they could not afford to lose it. The people of Earth had come to the fifth layer of heaven. The fifth layer of heaven was fundamentally different from before. Moreover, the fifth layer of heaven was now at its most dangerous time. How could Lu Chen not be worried? Do you want to go back and take a look? Lu Chen really wanted to go back, but after thinking about it for a moment, he shook his head and said, "Forget it, since I'm already here, I can't change anything even if I go back. There is only hope if I find the other two spirit veins." After hearing this news, Lu Chen, who originally planned to rest early today, suddenly stood up, put out the fire on the ground with his foot, and called Rhubarb and the others to continue their journey. The border of Penglai also had a level requirement for immortal cultivators. Lu Chen could only take out his weapon, the worn-out wheelbarrow, and continue to cross the border as a refugee. The current Lu Chen, who had not eaten staple food for several days, was no different from a real refugee. He successfully passed. Penglai had many small islands, and the real land area was very small. After 7 or 8 days, Lu Chen arrived at the seaside. As soon as he arrived, Lu Chen found that the most important defense forces of Penglai were at the seaside. A long wall had been built at the edge of the narrow coast. Many talisman masters were rushing to set up a new defense array, refiners were reinforcing the fortifications, and beast tamers were setting up a large number of traps at the seaside. Just by looking at the defenders, there were at least a few million. Not to mention that there were a large number of defenders further away reinforcing the fortifications. Lu Chen shook his head. If this war starts, it is simply unimaginable. The Origin God said, "Penglai also knows that the focus of their defense is at the seaside. This time, they are more prepared than the first great war of gods and devils, but I don't know if they can withstand it." Lu Chen could not answer this question, so he could only mix with a group of natives in the distance. The defenders were busy reinforcing the defense, but they also needed to eat and drink. These natives were the people who provided food for the fishing here. They lined up, and according to the defenders' request, each person boarded a small wooden boat and went out to sea to fish. If they still went out to sea at this time, they would definitely die if they encountered magical beasts. Perhaps it was because of this that they didn't send large ships out to sea, and only sent small ships out to sea to spread out the danger. Sure enough, they don't treat the natives as human beings. Lu Chen's eyes were slightly angry. "Hey, where did you come from?" The defenders quickly noticed Lu Chen. This guy only had one arm and was carrying a child. It was too conspicuous. "I am catching fish." Lu Chen looked innocent. "You can catch fish with this kind of appearance?" "Yes, I have learned fishing skills." "You have fishing skills?" Among the natives, very few people had the conditions to learn some simple skills, and these people were obviously treasures. Okay, anyway, you might die outside. Hurry up and get on the boat." Lu Chen jogged to the dock and jumped onto a wooden boat. The soldier in charge shouted, "Don't go too far. Follow the buoy, or else you can't blame others if you fall into a trap." Could this small wooden boat slide to the Penglai immortal realm? Lu Chen did not care anymore. He quickly picked up the oars and quickly left the shore. Chapter 869. The Penglai immortal realm was located in the East Sea, more than 10 nautical miles away from the many small islands of Penglai. The sea surface here was covered in water vapor all year round, making the entire sea look like it was shrouded in fog. It was like a fairyland, hence the name. It was said that some people in the Penglai immortal realm had seen immortals walking on water and fighting with giant beasts on the sea surface. Of course, these were just legends. Lu Chen was now rowing a small boat and had already arrived at the foggy sea surface. The fishing boats around him had all disappeared. He was the only boat on the sea surface. The sea surface was calm. Looking around, one could only see the sea and the sky. It was endless. Only the area in front of them was shrouded in fog. This is the Penglai immortal realm. We have to go underwater again. Clear water pearl. Lu Chen took out the blue pearl. Little furball, stay here with little beast. Don't go too far. Lu Chen settled little beast down and dived into the water with rhubarb. With the help of the clear water pearl, Lu Chen and the others could stay underwater for a long time. Rhubarb's doggy paddling was very smooth. Lu Chen followed rhubarb and dived all the way down. When they reached a depth of a few hundred meters, there was no light around them. Only the clear water pearl shone on the two of them. According to Lu Chen's idea, the Penglai spirit vein might be in a crack at the bottom of the sea. However, after diving for less than a kilometer, rhubarb did not continue diving. Instead, he began to swim horizontally. What's going on? After swimming for a while, there was a faint light in front of them. Lu Chen followed rhubarb and approached quickly. As they got closer, the light became more and more obvious until it covered the light of the clear water pearl. Interestingly, the light emitted by the light source only illuminated half of the sea. The sea opposite Lu Chen was pitch black. This strange light source directly caused half of the sea to be illuminated while the other half remained pitch black. Using the light source, Lu Chen noticed that the water flow in the sea ahead was very strange. The seawater was like a whirlpool, slowly flowing clockwise. The speed of the water flow was not fast, and there did not seem to be any danger. Through the swirling seawater, Lu Chen could see a particularly bright light in the center of the whirlpool. It seemed that the surrounding light was coming from there. Rhubarb indicated that the spiritual origin was inside. Lu Chen called rhubarb back and swam towards the center of the whirlpool. Without encountering any obstacles, Lu Chen smoothly entered the vortex and approached the light source. After getting closer, Lu Chen found that there were two huge pearls in the sea, one black and one white, with a diameter of tens of meters. They were motionless, and the light was coming from the white pearl. When the light reached the black pearl, it was completely annihilated. This caused the light source to be half bright and half dark. Solipsistic, this is the bipolar yin-yang pearl, a treasure nurtured by Tai star. It is also the spiritual origin of the fourth spirit vein. The voice of the origin god echoed in Lu Chen's mind. This fellow could communicate with Lu Chen in his mind. Treasure? Yes. But don't try anything funny. This thing has already merged with all things on Tai star. No one can take it away. Who knows how many demonic beasts and even immortals came to Penglai immortal region to try and steal the treasure, but they all returned without success. Lu Chen was a bit embarrassed. He had only tried to think of something funny, and he was warned by the origin god. I don't want to take it away, then how do I restart the spirit vein? This, logically speaking, you can just undo the surrounding array, but, before the origin god finished speaking, Lu Chen had a bad premonition. You are so hesitant. Don't tell me you can't open it. It's like this. Just now I noticed that the array was a bit different from what I remembered. I have already thought of the reason. The bipolar yin-yang pearl can merge with all things. So after so many years, it has already merged with the 72 spherical heaven Big Dipper spirit locking array that sealed it. The original array is already very different from before. Lu Chen spat out a mouthful of old blood. It immediately turns into bubbles and rises up. It merged with the array that sealed it. In other words, the original 72 spherical heaven Big Dipper spirit locking array was no longer the original array. The previous Photo-Purgatory spirit locking array needed to break through 1024 array cores. This array should not be weak. If he tried one by one, he would be able to try until the end of time. Then what do we do? We can only force our way through the array. What? You said you would help me solve the array, but you want me to force my way in. What use do I have for you? Your words hurt my heart. Who would have thought that the bipolar yin-yang pearl would be so powerful that it could merge with an array? But don't be anxious. You have the God-Fiend attribute. You might really be able to crack the array. Lu Qin could not help but shake his head. The Origin God's use of might was really ingenious. In an instant, Lu Qin understood how high the chances of success were. These were array formations that could seal spirit veins. They were much more terrifying than the array formations that protected mountains and cities. He had never attempted such a high-level array formation before. However, if the array formation had changed so much that even the Origin God could not solve it, he definitely did not hope that he could open the array formation blindly. Forget it, I can only force my way in. Origin God, how do I do it? Activate God-Fiend Symbiosis and attack the bipolar Yin-Yang Pearl with Sword Qi. I should be able to trigger the array formation. Lu Qin quickly recalled Rhubarb and activated it. Huge Ravager swept out towards the bipolar Yin-Yang Pearl. Before the Sword Qi struck the two pearls, the surrounding seawater began to swirl violently. The powerful swirling force caused Huge Ravager's Spirit Qi to swirl into a vortex. Lu Qin immediately felt a terrifying suction force around him. Don't resist. Follow the suction force. Lu Qin had just relaxed when his body was quickly sucked into the vortex. His body spun wildly with the current. Even the spirit qi in his body was stirred up. It could actually cause the spirit qi in his body to become abnormal. Spirit qi subtlety. Lu Qin hurriedly controlled the flow of spirit qi in his body. After a moment, when he felt that the spirit qi was no longer so difficult to control, he suddenly realized that he was already in a sea of stars. The swirling finally stopped. Lu Qin floated there, looking at the empty starry sky around him in a daze. This is, if I'm not wrong, this should be the 72 Chaotic Heavens Big Dipper array, after fusing with the bipolar Yin-Yang Pearl. In my memory, the starlight in the 72 Chaotic Heavens Big Dipper array is an array core. Destroying the 72 array cores will break the array. However, the amount of starlight here is twice as much as before. Look at that starlight. There's a black hole behind it. I don't know what kind of change this means. If it was only 72 array cores, Lu Qin could still accept it. Let's not worry about that for now. Let's find a starlight and try it out. Lu Qin finished speaking and was about to make a move. Wait! Yuan Shen hurriedly shouted. What? The 72 Chaotic Heavens Big Dipper array is not easy to deal with. All the spirit qi here will not dissipate. In other words, if you attack the starlight with Huge Ravager, unless you can be sure to destroy the starlight, Huge Ravager will attack you from any direction. Even if you destroy a starlight, the collision of the two spirit qi will still turn into an attack to attack you. Now that the bipolar Yin-Yang Pearl has changed the array, it might have other effects. Lu Qin widened his eyes. In other words, he had to be prepared to be beaten up by his skills. Chapter 870. Lu Qin had no choice but to use Great Ravager to test the waters. A Great Ravager swept towards a spot of starlight. Moments later, the sword beam passed through the starlight and vanished. During the attack, Lu Qin discovered that the starlight had suddenly turned dark, and the dark star beside it had suddenly turned into a new starlight. Holy shit, this. Just as Lu Qin was feeling depressed, a sword beam swept out from behind him. Upon closer inspection, it was not difficult to see that it was the Great Ravager he had just used. Lu Qin hurriedly dodged as the sword beam swept past him, shooting into the distance before disappearing once again. Before Lu Qin could think of a way to deal with the spherical Heaven Big Dipper formation, the sword beam suddenly appeared beside Lu Qin and attacked Lu Qin once again. Don't be hit by it. The impact after hitting it will not disappear. Instead, it will form a new attack. The Origin God warned. It was just one sword beam. Lu Qin naturally had no problem dodging it, but it was too troublesome. He could not be hit, so he could only dodge. If there were more attacks, the situation would become more dangerous. Origin God, the starlight can dodge. How do I attack? Why don't I try attacking the starlight and dark stars at the same time? You can try. Lu Chen once again sent out 2 sword beams, but the 2 dots, one bright and one dark, suddenly overlapped and then disappeared. Only when the 2 sword beams disappeared did the 2 dots reappear in their original positions. This time, Lu Chen had to deal with 3 sword beams. Lu Chen widened his eyes. The starlight can be transferred to the dark star, and the dark star cannot be attacked. If they are attacked at the same time, they will vanish. How do I fight this? The fusion of the 2 extremes becomes Taiji. The origin God was also trying his best to think of a solution. The yin and yang stars can exchange and fuse. It is indeed difficult to crack. Lu Chen dodged the 3 sword beams as he continued to think of a solution. The yin and yang stars could transfer themselves and fuse to avoid his attacks. Finally, the attacks would return to him. This feeling was somewhat similar to Taiji. An eye for an eye. If he continued to fight like this, he would probably be killed by more and more sword chi before he could find a way to break it. If he wanted to figure out how to break the formation, he would have to figure out how its spiritual energy worked. Thinking of this, Lu Chen temporarily stopped attacking. Spiritual Qi Subtlety. Lu Chen was stunned when he entered the spiritual aura subtlety state. The spiritual energy in the entire array seemed to converge into a huge image, and this image was none other than the Supreme Extreme Diagram. That's not right. Where's the pair of yin-yang eyes in the Taiji diagram? Lu Chen suddenly realized that something was amiss. In a normal Taiji diagram, there was yang in yin and yin in yang. It was the pair of fish eyes, but he had yet to see the Big Dipper array's yin-yang eyes. That's right, maybe the bipolar yin-yang pearl is that pair of eyes. With this in mind, Lu Chen hurriedly asked, Origin God, do you know about the Taiji painting? Yeah, what's wrong? Do you remember the pair of fish eyes in the yin-yang diagram? I saw the yin and yang circulation of the spherical heaven Big Dipper array, but I didn't see the pair of fish eyes. Fish eyes? Oh, you mean the dual use of Qiankuan? I don't know what it is either. Anyway, it's just those 2 points. Do you know the exact location? I know. One is in Kanzhongwu, and the other is in Lizhongji. What the fuck? You should just point it out to me. Lu Chen was speechless. How would he know if it was so profound? You don't even know the 8 trigrams, and you still have the nerve to say that you're an immortal cultivator. The origin God was also speechless. He could only create a virtual image and look around. Where is the Taiji painting? I don't know how to use spiritual Qi subtlety. If you don't tell me, how can I point it out to you? The center of the Taiji painting is beneath our feet. The direction I'm facing is 12:00 due north. The origin God nodded and sighed. Can you go back and study the 8 trigrams? What 12:00 direction, who can understand it? North, right? Lu Chen also had no choice but to nod his head. Yes, it's due north. If we're in the middle of the Taiji painting facing north, then there should be one there. The origin God pointed in a direction. In front of them, starlight flickered, but there was nothing in the direction the origin God was pointing at. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. It's probably hidden. Maybe the key to breaking the array is the Qiankuan dual usage. Do you plan to attack? Don't forget that the Taiji painting can rotate. If you attack, you'd better ensure that your attack hits and destroys it directly. I know. Lu Chen said in a low voice. Then, Lu Chen activated the God of War Possession, Devil Transformation, 3 Lives Reincarnation, and Soul Body as one. Suddenly, Lu Chen's body exploded with a violent spiritual qi. The Origin God looked at Lu Chen in surprise. Was this guy's strongest state? Lu Chen took a deep breath and pulled out the limitless demon god sword. I hope we can break the array, or we'll be in trouble. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Sacred lotus sword heart. Sacred lotus sword heart. He even added tiger descends the mountain. The Origin God's eyes widened. If this attack did not hit, then they would be bombarded by the sacred lotus sword heart. 2160 sword chi blasted toward the void. The extremely fast sword speed was almost like a ray of light. After using the sacred lotus sword heart, the 3 sword chi from before shot toward Lu Chen. Lu Chen hurriedly dodged and then looked nervously in the direction of the sacred lotus sword heart. Far away, he suddenly heard a series of explosions. Lu Chen was delighted. It looked like he had hit. Sure enough, the void that was originally empty was suddenly filled with flames. It turned out that there was really something hidden in that void. We hit. The Origin God's eyes widened. Now let's see if we can destroy that array core. Reality proved that the sacred lotus sword heart's power could only be described as terrifying. After being attacked by a series of sword chi, the white pearl appeared. At the same time, all the white pearls in the Big Dipper array seemed to be attacked. A moment later, all the pearls lost their glow. But at this moment, the entire array suddenly shook violently. It was as if there was a pushing force that wanted to push Lu Chen out of the array. If he could not completely destroy the 72 Chaos Heaven Big Dipper array, then there was no way to open the spirit vein. Lu Chen hurriedly turned around and shouted anxiously, "There's another place. Quick! There!" Lu Chen quickly raised his hand again. Not good. I'm going to be pushed out. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. Just as his voice faded, Lu Chen suddenly realized that he had returned to the water flow. Origin God, are you there? I'm here. Did you use your Sacred Lotus Sword Heart just now? Upon hearing the Origin God's voice, Lu Chen heaved a sigh of relief. I used it, but I did not have time to use Tiger Descends the Mountain. And I was in a hurry. I don't know how many sword chi I used, previously. Time was of the essence. Lu Chen could only give up on Tiger Descends the Mountain. The Sacred Lotus Sword Heart's attack had been reduced by half. He did not know if it could destroy the array core. At this moment, the surrounding water flow gradually slowed. Lu Chen looked nervously at the dual polarity yin-yang pearl in the center of the whirlpool. From the looks of it, it was not prepared to let him enter the 72 Chaos Heaven Big Dipper array. Did he break the array or not? Chapter 871. Brat, the 72 spherical Heaven Big Dipper formation is broken. The Origin God suddenly exclaimed in Lu Chen's mind. How do you know? The water flow is about to stop. And look, that's one of the 4 heavenly kings of the devil beasts, the 9 nether white centipedes afterimage. It has already left the array, which means the array has been broken. The Origin God was extremely excited. Hurry up and cultivate. Don't waste this opportunity. The surrounding water flow slowed down and was almost no different from the surrounding seawater. In front of the dual polarity yin-yang pearl, the shadow of a huge creature with a human body and a snake tail flashed and disappeared. It rushed out of the water as if it was escaping. White centipede. Yes, a creature created by Nuwa according to her appearance. She is a special beast because there is only one. She once followed Nuwa to mend the sky with the soaring snake, but later fell into the netherworld. You have to be careful when you meet her in the future. Her strength is very terrifying. Lu Chen shook his head. Black Qilin, Torch Dragon, and White Centipede. Not to mention the Supreme Beast, even the 4 heavenly kings were not easy to deal with. Now was not the time to complain. Lu Chen hurriedly swam to the dual polarity yin-yang pearl. When he was in front of the two pearls, Lu Chen could feel how huge the pearls were as they quietly floated in the water. How magical, to be able to transform the formation into another appearance. Heaven and earth can indeed fuse with all things. At this moment, a low voice sounded in Lu Chen's mind. This voice seemed to be a mixture of many voices, like a human and a ghost, symbiotic body. You have some connection with me. This was obviously not the Origin God's voice. That kid did not say a word. Perhaps the owner of this voice had blocked him. Who are you? Who am I? Ha ha ha, your question is very interesting. I don't know who I am either. With your human understanding, you can probably think that I am the level 2 pearl in front of you. How can you speak? Since I can fuse with all things, I can naturally communicate with you, said the voice. Do you think you broke my formation? I just saw that you and I have some fate, so I removed the formation. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. What exactly was this spiritual source? Was it a living thing? Or was it the remnant soul of a god? Not only do you have a fiend god symbiotic body, but you also have a sky-devouring rat and a beast god. TSK, 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 you're an interesting human. The voice continued. Fine, I'll lend you a hand. Why? Lu Chen suddenly asked, why are you helping me? I'm not trying to help you. People say that a wise man is bound to make mistakes, but the heavens never fail to plan. I just want to see if this unsolvable situation is truly unsolvable. Was it really that hard to change fate? As for you, can you really defy the heavens? My spiritual chi will recover in about 30 days. At that time, you won't be able to get close to me. Take this opportunity to comprehend everything you've experienced in the 72 chaotic Heaven Dipper formation. If you need, you can re-enter the illusion at any time. Whether you can gain anything depends on your own luck. In 30 days, leave this place immediately. With that, the voice disappeared. Why was I unable to communicate with you just now? Origin God's voice suddenly appeared. That pearl spoke to me just now. Lu Chen answered. It told me to comprehend my experience in the formation. I have 30 days. Then why aren't you hurrying? Origin God didn't mind that he had been excluded from this secret conversation at all and urged him. Lu Chen nodded and quickly sat down cross-legged, entering a state of selflessness. In the past month, the magical beast army's activities had become more and more frequent, even causing serious damage to the borders of the 7 countries. Luo Yao hadn't slept well for a long time and looked a little tired. This morning, she had just rearranged the defense line with the Ministry of War and met with the envoys of the 7 countries. Falling Dust had already received the recognition of the other 6 war gods and was currently receiving their guidance to learn the 7 ultimate formations of destiny. It was said that he was making rapid progress. This was the only piece of good news at the moment. Perhaps Falling Dust could really become the new ice god and help the 7 countries resist the magical beast army. On the other hand, the various countries had lost more than 50 spirit stone mines, but in the past week, there had been no news of any other spirit stone mines being attacked. This sounded like good news, but Luo Yao couldn't relax at all. There was another reason why the spirit stone mines weren't being attacked for no reason, and that was, that fellow no longer needed to devour spirit stone mines. Its strength seemed to have taken shape. In addition, there was news from the 7 countries that the 4 heavenly kings of the magical beasts, the Black Qilin, the Torch Dragon, the White Centipede of the Netherworld, and the Corpse Kuan, had been seen one after another. The 4 heavenly kings of the magical beasts were all gathered. Now, there was only one person left to appear. The super magical beast that had slaughtered countless cultivators, the sovereign of the magical beasts. In the study, Luo Yao sat down and sighed. Although the 7 countries were unprecedentedly united, could they withstand this heavenly tribulation? 1 in 10,000. Could it be you? Falling dust? Luo Yao thought hard but couldn't find an answer. Or you? Solipsistic? Or was there no such person at all? Thinking of the solipsistic, Luo Yao remembered that someone had said that he had entered the East Peak Nation, but he hadn't come to find her in such a long time. That fellow didn't seem to know her identity. If he knew that she was the Jade Emperor of the East Peak Nation, she wondered what kind of expression he would have. However, although the solipsistic didn't come to find her, a group of people who claimed to be friends of the solipsistic came. Even if she was busy, Luo Yao would gradually become friends of the solipsistic. Not long after, someone asked to see her. Come in. Luo Yao replied indifferently. 30 humans came in, and they didn't seem to be high level, and they were all rogue cultivators. Greetings, Jade Emperor. Everyone bowed. Luo Yao stood up. You are friends of the solipsistic? Yes, I wonder if the Jade Emperor has seen him before. How is your relationship with him? A beautiful woman with a cold expression asked. This woman was very beautiful, especially the cold aura around her. Luo Yao couldn't help but take another look at her. You are an ice magician? Yes. This person was Xuangling. She was undoubtedly the strongest person here. However, Luo Yao only took another look. She was still very confident in her own strength. She had seen countless geniuses, but she was the only one who stood at the peak. Luo Yao had already seen through their thoughts. They probably wanted to find out her attitude towards the solipsistic before deciding how to deal with it. We are friends. Luo Yao said directly. You don't have to worry. Since you are his friends, I will protect you. Hearing the Jade Emperor's words, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Previously, when they asked around, the others didn't know why the Jade Emperor wanted to see them. Now, they could roughly guess. It was for Lu Chen's sake that he took special care of them. Jade Emperor, how is that kid recently? Where is he now? Someone in the crowd suddenly asked. Luo Yao looked at the person who spoke. It was an old man. I don't know. If there is nothing urgent, it is better for you not to look for him. The demonic beast army is about to invade. At that time, people will be plunged into misery and suffering. At this time, it is very dangerous to look for him everywhere. Luo Yao warned. I have an urgent matter to look for him. The old man said. What is it? The old man smiled. I want to give him something face to face. What is it that is so urgent? Luo Yao couldn't help but feel strange. The old man smiled. The puppet he left in the third heaven. Chapter 872. Luo Yao frowned slightly. How important could a puppet in the third heaven be? However, since the other party wanted to find solipsistic, perhaps there were other reasons that he did not want to tell her. Old man, I don't know where he is either. I only know that he appeared at the western border 2 months ago. Cowherd shook his head. The fifth heaven was so big, where could they find that guy? In my opinion, why don't you guys stay here first? He will definitely come when he knows about you guys. This is better than you guys searching everywhere and not being able to find each other. Luo Yao said, moreover, the war is approaching. You guys don't know how terrifying it will be. It was the first time that both parties had met, and they had their reservations. They did not know what the other party's relationship with solipsistic was, so Luo Yao could only say so much. Oh, right. If you guys are willing, you can join the forces in the capital. Now that the treasury is open, you guys can't get the cash withdrawal scroll if you don't belong to a sect. You guys should know how important the cash withdrawal scroll is by now. Everyone looked at each other. There were people from other powerful planets in the team, so they naturally understood the rules of the fifth heaven. Luo Yao left the study after giving her instructions. She still had many things to deal with. After that, everyone left Luo Yao's study. They did not stay in the accommodations that Luo Yao had arranged for them. Instead, they found an inn in the capital to settle down. After a while, everyone gathered together. Everyone's expression was solemn. It had been some time since they arrived at the fifth heaven. Facing the huge changes in the fifth heaven, many people on earth had not even gotten used to it. At this time, they encountered the demonic beast army that frequently attacked the cities. There were corpses and bandits on the road. It was fine in the East Peak Nation, but in the West Kingdom, there were many corpses on the road. When they arrived at the fifth heaven, it was the most chaotic time. They had just arrived and witnessed the cruelty of the fifth heaven. Especially Lu Yi and the rest. In the fourth heaven, Lu Chen had basically paved the way for the Earth players. In the originally cruel fourth heaven, Lu Chen had directly changed the rules of the battle between the 9 forces to reduce the danger to the Earth players. Now that they saw such an environment, they felt the pressure multiplied. "Brother, where are you? There's going to be a battle outside, and you're alone outside. Those magical beasts are so strong." Lu Yi was so anxious that her eyes were a little red. Xuanling walked over and held Lu Yi's arm. "Yi, don't worry. Didn't the Jade Emperor say that your brother appeared recently? That means he should be fine." The saintess nodded and said, "Solipsistic is not an impulsive person." Dongfang Ji's brows were tightly knitted together. "I'm not worried about that fellow. Even if he can't beat him, I think he'll definitely be able to escape if he activates soul body as one. What we should be worried about now is the invasion of the demonic beasts. I didn't expect to encounter a heavenly tribulation that hasn't been seen in 1,000 years when I just arrived at the 5th layer of heaven." They had naturally heard a lot of rumors in the streets. Cowherd said, "Actually, the Jade Empress is right. If we go around looking for him, why don't we let him come to us? As long as the Jade Empress spreads the news, that guy will definitely come back. Right now, we have to establish ourselves in the 5th heaven. Otherwise, when that stinking brat comes, he will bring us along as a burden." The Earth player Xiao Yaofeng said, "That's true. Lu Yi, we were nurtured by the guide plan. The efforts of billions of people over so many years. If we can't survive, it will be a devastating blow to the guide plan. Not only us, but everyone here should also bear the hopes of their respective forces. The saintess here, Xuanling and Xuang Shui of the Frost clan, the Earth players, including Bei Shui and Gufei, who wasn't the hope of their respective forces. Yes, Xiao Yao is right. Instead of continuing to search for Mad God without any clues, why don't we wait here for him? At the same time, we can quickly increase our strength. At least, we can protect ourselves in the war. Yes, I can see that the Jade Empress is taking care of us. Otherwise, with our current level, who would be willing to protect us? We have to use this opportunity to strengthen ourselves." Soon, everyone came to an agreement. They temporarily gave up on searching for solipsistic and stayed in the Dongyu nation. Dongfang Ji stood up and said to everyone, "Everyone's war souls are not weak. However, the level 5 heaven war souls are greatly limited, and the time of the original body can only accumulate for 1 hour at most. So, my idea is to join a sect first and take advantage of the support from the National Treasury to obtain the cash withdrawal scroll." Although Lu Yi was still worried about her brother, she had to consider the big picture at this time. Bei Shui Gufei walked to Lu Yi's side and looked at her encouragingly. Yi, your brother will be fine." Lu Yi nodded. "I believe in my brother." Now, almost all the major forces in the Dongyu nation have gathered in the King's city. Let's go and collect information now. At night, we will discuss which force we should join. Later, we will ask the Jade Empress to recommend us. Dongfang Ji immediately got busy. As time went by, the demonic beast army's probing attacks at the borders of various countries began to escalate gradually. 10 days later, a large-scale war broke out at the borders of the Dongyu nation. The demonic beast army was as large as 100,000, and the number of defenders was 220,000. This was the first war where the demonic beast army had reached 100,000. The two sides fought in the pavilion city of the Dongyu southwest fortress for 4 days and 4 nights. The Dongyu nation quickly pulled out the defenders from the surrounding cities to support them. Relying on the Great City Protection Formation, they finally blocked the attacks of the demonic beast army. However, the defenders suffered more than 80,000 casualties, while the demonic beast army suffered less than 10,000 casualties. Moreover, they were all low-rank demonic beasts. It was a ratio of 1:8, and the demonic beasts lost low-rank combat power. This news quickly spread back to the king's city and shook the entire court. However, this war was just the beginning. 5 days after the battle at the pavilion, the White Lion Nation, the West Kingdom, the Penglai Nation, the 4 nations of the Great Wilderness, the Serene Demon Nation, the Buzhou Nation, and the other 6 nations were attacked by the demonic beast army of more than 100,000. Among the 4 nations of the Great Wilderness, the Serene Demon Nation, which had stronger offensive power, had rank 8 demonic beasts appear. The weaker West Kingdom's southern city was directly attacked. A small city in the Buzhou Nation was attacked, and the White Lion Nation almost lost a medium-sized city. In the following month, large-scale wars broke out frequently. Within a month, the demonic beast army of more than 100,000 attacked more than 30 times. At the same time, spies reported that the demonic beast army was continuously pouring out of the demonic beast lairs. At this time, everyone knew that the Great Divine Infernal War had begun. Luo Yao looked at the memorials that were not presented to her. 2 cities in the southwest had already been attacked, and the southwest defense line had been forced to shrink. The defenders had suffered more than 200,000 casualties, and the aboriginals had suffered 400,000 casualties. This was just the beginning. Luo Yao looked up and asked, "How's the ice goddess?" King Wu stepped forward. "Ice goddess Luo Bing will be out in half a month. Has she finished cultivating the Destiny 7 Ultimate Formation? The 7 gods are in the process of breaking in." Luo Yao heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, there was good news. Chapter 873. After Lu Chen came out of the Penglai secret realm, Lu Chen returned to his small boat. The last spirit vein is rather far. "It's in the Buzhou nation and it's the strongest of the 5 spirit veins," said the origin god. "We can row the boat directly to the secluded Fiend nation and then head west to the Buzhou nation." Lu Chen took a deep breath. This was the last spirit vein. Lu Chen had gained some insights from the dual polarity yin-yang pearl, but he still felt that he was missing something. Spiritual energy at the minute, subtlety and selflessness. The 3 seemed to be related when he sensed the world from Heavenly Star, but he couldn't use them together. In truth, Lu Chen hoped that they could be like the Heavenly Lake spirit vein and directly increase his spirit energy or other attributes. Even his arm hadn't been repaired, and it was only a kind of enlightenment. He had no confidence in defeating the sovereign of demonic beasts. There was no other way. "Let's go and take a look first." Lu Chen continued to row the boat. "Father!" A childish voice suddenly rang out. Lu Chen was shocked out of his wits as he looked at the head poking out from the side of the boat. Speaking of which, he had been so preoccupied on the way back that he had forgotten that something was missing on the boat. Only now did he remember that the little critter and the furball weren't on the boat. The one who had poked his head out of the water was the little beast deity. After a month, the little beast deity had already grown to the age of 4 or 5. He directly called Lu Chen, "Father, little critter." "It's me, father." The little beast deity climbed onto the boat with both hands. The furball also came out while holding his collar. After getting on the boat, he jumped down and ran onto Lu Chen's shoulder. "You've grown so big in a month." Lu Chen's eyes were full of astonishment. This little guy was only 2 or 3 years old when he left. "Father, I'm eating more than before." Before, I could only digest one origin crystal fragment a day, but now I can eat two. That's why I'm growing faster. It wasn't just relatively fast, it was too fast. Can you not call me father? I'm not your father. I don't have a wife yet. But, father, I was created by you. The little beast god looked at Lu Chen with some grievance. This little beast has no other relatives, only father, little furball, rhubarb, big sister Lu. Little beast god's appearance became more and more exquisite, but the clothes on his body had become a lot smaller. His trousers had become shorts, and his long sleeves had become a vest. Most likely, the sleeves of his clothes had been torn. Her pitiful appearance was especially heartbreaking. Sigh, it's fine if you call me that now. I'm just worried that you'll grow so fast. In the future, no matter how big the little beast grows, it will always be its father's child. Lu Chen felt pressured. Hearing this, it seemed that the little critter wouldn't grow slowly in the future. His mind automatically filled in a scene where a person who looked about the same age as him kept calling him father. She couldn't find a partner to begin with, and now it was even more hopeless. However, the growth of the little beast was also a good thing. Lu Chen didn't need to carry it anymore. Little beast, your body. Why are there bloodstains? Lu Chen's gaze swept over the red stains on the little beast's clothes. Little Furball and I were too bored waiting here for father, so we went underwater to kill some demonic beasts, the little beast said. Are there demonic beasts underwater? Lu Chen had been cultivating in the Penglai immortal realm, so he didn't notice. Not nearby, but there were many further away. However, we killed them all. I made an agreement with little Furball. We'll let him eat the body and give me the beast core. These two fellows actually took the time to kill demonic beasts. Lu Chen was a bit regretful. He had left these two troublemakers behind. What good could they do together? Fortunately, they were fine. How many did you kill? Lu Chen suddenly asked. I don't remember. About 4,000 or 5,000. Originally, there were many of them. They seemed to be heading towards the Penglai coast, but they ran away. We didn't dare to chase too far. Lu Chen's eyes widened. These two fellows killed 4,000 or 5,000 demonic beasts. Heading towards the Penglai coast. Could it be that they were going to attack the Penglai coast's defense line? Forget it, they wouldn't know anyway. It was more important to hurry on. After drifting on the sea for a few days, Lu Chen deliberately went ashore at a dangerous place at the border of the Yumo kingdom. As expected, he didn't encounter any guards. After entering the Yumo kingdom, Lu Chen had only been traveling for 7 or 8 days when he realized that something was wrong. He saw with his own eyes that a sky demon troop of tens of thousands was rapidly marching toward the northwest. That troop had clearly seen Lu Chen as well, but in the end, they didn't even pay him any attention and kept running. Later on, Lu Chen learned from some of the exiled aborigines that the situation in the fifth heaven had changed greatly in the past month. The demonic beast army had begun a large-scale attack on the 7 nations. It was said that the demonic beasts that swarmed out of the demonic beast nests covered the sky and formed a long line that stretched as far as the eye could see. The 7 demonic beast generals had also appeared on various battlefields, leading their armies to attack the 7 nations. Many cities in the 7 nations had already been lost, and the nations had begun to tighten their defenses towards the central regions. No wonder there weren't even any guards at the border. I wonder if that army just now was moving or providing support. Lu Chen continued to lead the little beast deity and rhubarb in the direction of the Buzhou nation. When he was passing by a city, he actually saw a siege. An army of 70 to 80,000 demonic beasts was besieging a city. These demonic beasts, under the command of intelligent generals, had their battle prowess multiplied by several folds. First, they used the previous few transformations to deplete the opponent's defenses, then deliberately set off traps to attack the defensive formations. After a few rounds of depletion, the defending army's defenses had been greatly weakened, and the demonic beast army began to charge again. The demonic beast army would cover the retreat of the injured demonic beasts. Many times, the defending army couldn't even tell how many times the enemy had respawned, so it was very difficult to focus fire on them. If they couldn't focus fire and fought one-on-one, the demonic beast's individual battle prowess would be unleashed. On the other hand, the biggest limitation of the immortal cultivators was the duration of soul-body fusion. Although the defending army had the advantage in numbers and their levels weren't low, they still had to consider the duration of soul-body fusion. They weren't like the demonic beast army, who were originally in their original bodies. Only a few high-leveled earth cultivators or emperor cultivators dared not to use soul-body fusion. The others had to allocate the duration of soul-body fusion. Those who had soul-body fusion went forward to engage in close combat, and those who didn't use the defense formation to attack from within. Let's go, you can save one city, but you can't save the entire fifth heaven. Time is running out. The origin deity urged. Lu Chen nodded and quickly left the battlefield. Half a month later, Lu Chen successfully arrived at the divine tomb in the Buzhou nation. This was where the last spirit vein was. It was said that an ancient super-expert had fallen here, and his bones formed the Buzhou mountain that stretched for thousands of miles, forming a basin called the divine tomb. Inside the divine tomb, there was a huge broken sword. Half of the sword was inserted into the ground, and the other half was slanted between heaven and earth. It was a few hundred meters tall. It was said that this was the sword of a deity, and it had grown into an ultimate divine weapon. However, it was now just a huge rusty broken sword. When he walked in front of this broken sword, the godly demon Limitless sword suddenly resonated slightly. Patian. I didn't expect you to have fallen here. The godly demon Limitless sword said faintly. Chapter 874. Lu Chen was surprised. The Limitless demon sword knew this sword. Limitless, you know this sword? That was many years ago. I've fought it a few times. But, boss, the past is the past. I don't want to remember it. The Limitless demon sword could fight against a divine weapon. That meant that the Limitless sword was at least a divine weapon. But from Limitless' tone, it didn't seem like he wanted to talk about the past. Lu Chen thought about it and said, I won't ask about the past. I will take you with me in the future. Boss, I believe I didn't misjudge you. The origin god didn't say anything for a long time. Listening to the conversation between the two was a little scary. Solipsistic, I only knew that your Limitless demon sword wasn't simple. I didn't expect it to be a divine weapon. Even a level 5 doesn't have a true divine weapon. Lu Chen replied, I don't know either, but he shouldn't be a divine artifact. I don't know exactly what he is, but I think if he can grow up, he definitely won't lose to a divine artifact. Alright, I really don't know how you've survived all this time. If only we could live in the same era. We can drink some wine and eat some dishes. I can listen to you talk about the past. Lu Chen smiled. I also want to listen to your story. From a native to the strongest level 5, it must be a legend. Oh right, after this battle ends, we can have a good chat. The origin god didn't answer. His tone was a little lonely. I really hope that one day. Solipsistic, let's go. This is the last spirit vein. Lu Chen thought that the origin god was sad because he could only exist as the origin god token. He didn't think much about it and walked towards the heavenly god tomb. Lu Chen observed for a while. The array around the heavenly god tomb was called the Earth Fiend Thick Earth Spirit Lock Array. It looked like after a few thousand years, this array didn't change much. That meant that as long as he followed the origin god's method to break the 1024 array eyes, he could restart the spirit vein. The origin god transformed into a virtual image and stood beside Lu Chen. The two of them faced the heavenly god tomb without moving. Origin God looked at the giant sword in front of him. Even Empyrean gods can fall. Lu Chen took a deep breath. That's right. Since he's going to fall, what right does he have to call himself a god? The Origin God looked at Lu Chen. So, if you can survive, will you keep going until you defy the heavens? I will. Origin God pursed his lips and nodded heavily. What you are doing is something I once wanted to do but didn't dare to do. I really have to thank a Tai for handing the Origin God writ to you. Lu Chen smiled and said, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to break through so many profound formations. I should also thank Brother Tai. I wonder if the father and daughter are doing well. A Tai is dead, Origin God suddenly said. What? Lu Chen opened his eyes wide and looked at the original god in shock. They were killed by Baishar Nation's war god, the Lion King. The Origin God looked at Lu Chen with a complicated expression. Pain, anger, and helplessness. He couldn't tell. When a Tai found out that his wife had died, he was filled with grief and anger. He asked a Hui to go to the East Peak Nation to find Luo Yao while he went to the Lion King's palace alone. In the end, the explosion of the spirit pill didn't hurt the Lion King. Lu Chen's eyes emitted green fog as he clenched his right fist. He had seen many corpses along the way, but none had made him as angry as he was when he learned of a Tai's tragic death. Brother Tai. Why didn't you wait for me? Lu Chen's eyes were wet as he said angrily. Solipsistic, calm down. I didn't tell you before because I was afraid you would be impulsive. Lu Chen took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Where's a Hui? She's in the East Peak Nation now. With Luo Yao, she's very safe. Lu Chen nodded painfully. At least he and his wife were still alive. This was the only consolation. This is the last spirit vein, the Origin God said again. The Origin God spoke again. Undo the Earth Fiend formation here. I can only accompany you up to here. Lu Chen suddenly turned his head to look at the Origin God. He didn't understand. Wasn't the Origin God token still in his hands? Why could the Origin God only accompany him up to here? You. Where are you going? The Origin God smiled slightly. The Earth Termination Array is specially designed to counter remnant souls like me. I'm just a remnant consciousness to begin with. I won't go anywhere. I'll just disappear. What? Disappear, disappear. Yes, disappear. The Origin God looked up at the sky, the ground, and everything he could see. Disappear from my world. He raised his hand, wanting to feel the breeze, but a leaf brushed past his palm. He couldn't feel anything. Once, for this world, he didn't hesitate to explode his spirit pill and have his soul destroyed. All the Origin God tokens will lose their effects the moment I disappear. The natives can only cultivate through spirit energy. The Origin God looked at Lu Chen. Lu Chen frowned. Origin God, this. Why don't you teach me how to break the array? At most, I'll learn the 8 trigrams. Yes, you can write it down on paper. The Origin God smiled. You want to learn the 8 trigrams? You can't even tell north from south. Actually, you can't break the Earth Termination Array. Only I can break it, but the Origin God token is too important to the natives. Without it, they won't see any hope. The Origin God shook his head. Solipsistic, so you have to promise me one thing. Before Lu Chen could reply, the Origin God said, you asked me before why I wasn't reborn. Now you know that regardless of whether I can be reborn or not, I don't want to be reborn. But now, the world is heartless. Gods and demons are cruel. I have to be reborn. Lu Chen looked at the Origin God, puzzled. He suddenly stared at Lu Chen with hatred, his voice trembling. My people are being killed by demonic beasts and immortal cultivators, but I can't do anything about it. No matter who wins or loses in this great war between gods and demons, to the natives, they will continue to live in hell. They need something to rely on. Even if the spiritual chi is recovering, they can't rise without hope. They need the origin god. And you, although you are not a native, you have the common people in your heart. In my eyes, you are already one of us. Solipsistic, I beg you. Please let them see hope again. Please use the identity of the origin god, to fight for the natives. After saying this, the origin god knelt down on one knee. Lu Chen was shocked. But soon, Lu Chen replied in a low voice, I promise you. In this war, I, Solipsistic, will be the new origin god. A breeze blew in the god of heaven tomb. No one knew that at this moment, the most mysterious and powerful legend of the fifth layer of heaven, the origin god, would continue to exist here. The last spirit vein was about to be opened. When there were only a few array cores left, a huge beast shadow appeared in the array. It was the corpse Kuan. The corpse Kuan shot toward the northern sky. Lu Chen and the origin god both understood that at this point, the strength of the four heavenly kings of the demonic beasts had been completely restored. However, Lu Chen didn't care about this anymore. He just watched as the origin god exhausted his remaining spiritual power and opened the last array core. His virtual image turned into photons and slowly dissipated. Solipsistic, goodbye, Lu Chen held back his tears and nodded heavily. He really wished that he had a pot of wine and a few dishes to have a good drink with this friend from 3,000 years ago. You actually know how to cry, the origin god said with a smile. Hey, I am already dead. This is just my remaining spiritual power. The origin god smiled at Lu Chen. Oh, I almost forgot. There is one more thing. That girl Luo Yao, if you like her, marry her. Chapter 875. As the last speck of light disappeared, Lu Chen hurriedly looked at the origin god token in his hand. The origin god badge immediately dimmed. It was no different from an ordinary wooden badge. Lu Chen closed his eyes. In the entire fifth layer of heaven, the only thing he admired was the origin god. But he was already gone, forever gone. Taking a deep breath, Lu Chen carefully put away this wooden token that didn't have anything special. Brother, don't worry. I will let all the natives know that the origin god didn't die. After saying that, Lu Chen turned around and walked towards the giant sword. This was the last spirit vein. What could he comprehend? Limitless sword. A voice suddenly sounded. It wasn't in Lu Chen's mind but in reality. Lu Chen looked at the giant sword in shock. At the same time, the limitless sword seemed to want to come out. Lu Chen pulled it out. The limitless sword of divinity and demon floated in front of the giant sword as if it was alive. Its entire body emitted black and white spiritual energy. Don't waste your energy, old friend. I can no longer fight you. Heaven Breaker said. The current me is only waiting for the final destruction. Is that your new master? I feel like you're much weaker than your previous master. The limitless sword of divinity and demon said, Heaven Breaker, no matter how strong your previous master was, didn't he still die? What's more, my current master will definitely be stronger than your master in the future. Heaven Breaker didn't seem to want to continue talking about this topic. You and I have fought for thousands of years. I didn't think that I would be able to see you in my twilight years. Whatever. Now that I am a sword without a master, our fight can finally stop. Seeing that you are still alive, I actually feel quite happy. I haven't broken the heavens, but can you defy the heavens? I really want to see how far your new master can go. That brat, since you broke the Earth Terminus formation, I will give you an opportunity. You can cultivate here for half a year. In this half a year, I can suppress the spiritual energy in my body. You can cultivate in the heavenly God's environment. It will naturally be beneficial to your strength. However, how many benefits you can obtain will depend on your own fortune. Half a year. Lu Chen was taken aback. Wasn't this a little too long? Now that the battles were already so intense, would the great war of gods and demons be over in half a year? Boss, go and cultivate. Don't miss this opportunity. The limitless demon god sword said to Lu Chen, don't worry, don't underestimate the strength of the immortal cultivators. They should be able to hold on for half a year. Oh. You want to fight the sovereign of magical beasts? Heaven Breaker's interest was suddenly piqued. Brat, your current strength is only comparable to the 4 heavenly kings of the magical beast clan. How could you possibly be a match for the supreme magical beast? You should be complaining that your cultivation time is too short. Why are you still hesitating? Lu Chen frowned. Wuji was right. He also felt that he wasn't a match for the supreme magical beast. If he rushed over now, he would be sending himself to his death. Once he died, there would be no chance of winning this bet. He had to make full use of his last chance to cultivate. Thinking of this, Lu Chen no longer hesitated and walked towards the Heaven Splitter sword. In the blink of an eye, he had already entered a different world. This was still the tomb of the God of Heaven. It was just that it was still daytime before, but now it had suddenly become night. The giant sword that was originally standing between heaven and earth had suddenly shrunk to its normal size. Behind it, there was a scroll. Lu Chen walked over curiously and opened the scroll. Upon seeing the contents, Lu Chen immediately felt his scalp go numb. There wasn't a single word inside, it was all white paper. It can't be, this is the legendary wordless heavenly book. A dignified man came out of nowhere and said indifferently, this is the formless technique. Lu Chen was shocked and quickly became alert. Who are you? I am the Heaven Splitter Sword's artifact spirit's virtual image. What you have in your hand is a method of using the technique. Don't lie to me. What I have in my hand is the wordless heavenly book. Lu Chen couldn't help but ridicule. That person didn't follow Lu Chen's rhythm and continued, you must learn how to split up those techniques that you have learned in the past. What's your most powerful cultivation technique? Show it to me and I'll see. Just hit me. Lu Chen was a little hesitant. You and Limitless Sword are enemies, right? Why are you teaching me? Enemies that have been fighting for thousands of years are rarer than friends. Moreover, it's not me who is his enemy. It's my master who is his enemy. As an artifact spirit, there is actually no difference between enemies and friends. Now that my master has fallen and I am about to lose my consciousness, why would I harm you, a little guy? Don't worry, I have long lost my desire to fight for hegemony. Limitless Sword suddenly said, Boss, you can trust it, Heaven Splitter can't be trusted, but Limitless Sword can be trusted. Limitless Sword and Heaven Splitter Sword have been fighting for thousands of years. They understand each other more thoroughly than friends. Lu Chen decided to give it a try. My strongest technique can only be used 4 times. No problem, in the God of Heaven's illusion, it won't consume the number of times it can be used. Lu Chen nodded. Do you want to activate the state? No need. Are you sure you want me to hit you? Ha ha ha, what level are you at? Don't worry, you can't hurt me. Lu Chen thought for a while. It seems to be true. The other party is the artifact spirit of a fully formed artifact. His worries were unnecessary. Then he held the demon god Limitless Sword, held his breath and shouted, Fierce Tiger descends the mountain. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. 260 rays of sword chi shot towards the man. The man looked at the sea of sword chi coming towards him. His eyes were filled with surprise, but it was already too late to dodge. Boom 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 boom. This continued for several minutes. When Lu Chen finished using his technique, Lu Chen looked at his sacred lotus sword heart. The number of uses was still 4. Only then did he feel relieved. But when he looked up, he suddenly found that the man had disappeared. Where did he go? Cough cough cough. Behind Lu Chen, the man suddenly appeared. When did you flash behind me? Didn't you want to test my technique? Why did you dodge? Limitless Sword said, Boss, he didn't dodge. That spirit seemed to have been killed by you. This is a new one. The man was a little embarrassed. What are you? Not bad. The power has indeed slightly exceeded my expectations. Lu Chen hurriedly said, Actually, I didn't activate my status. If I did, the damage would be higher. Why don't we try again? No need. The man immediately raised his hand and stopped Lu Chen, who was eager to try. Let me explain Formless to you. Lu Chen listened attentively. In the past, the techniques were all one move at a time. However, in a battle between experts, these one-move attacks often become a joke. One move can be divided into a probing move, a real move, a feint move, a back move, a change move. Experts are always flexible in their moves. They no longer follow the rules one by one. This is called formless. Lu Chen frowned. What the Heaven Breaker spirit said was very similar to Luo Yao's fighting style. Was this the formless? Then I should be able to figure it out. Chapter 876. Although the power of the sacred lotus sword heart is strong, how could a true expert allow you to unleash so many sword strikes? But if you learn formless and simplify the moves without reducing the power of the moves, the effect will be different. To achieve formless, you need to control the spiritual energy in your body so that it doesn't leak out with a single move. When you're proficient, you can even control the damage of your skills. Take your sacred lotus sword heart for example. The power of each strike is the same, but if you learn formless, you can use one strike as a feint, and the power of that strike will be transferred to the next strike. You can even combine several strikes into one to create a killing move. Of course, it's very difficult to achieve this. Unless you know spiritual energy refinement, it's impossible. While the Heaven Splitter artifact spirit was explaining, Lu Chen, who had been deep in thought, suddenly used the sacred lotus sword heart. This time, he didn't use more than 2,000 swords at once. Instead, he used them together with his movement. At a suitable pause, he casually unleashed dozens of sword chi. When the Heaven Splitter artifact spirit saw this, he was surprised. He only explained it once, and that guy already used it. Suddenly, after 9 steps in the air, Lu Chen combined the remaining 1,000 swords into one and blasted it towards the mountain in the distance. A huge sword chi swept across like a ray of light, and the mountain peak in the distance was directly flattened. Rumble. The artifact spirit could only watch helplessly as the peak of the mountain slid down. Lu Chen walked to the artifact spirit's side and asked, Is it like this? I feel that the power is indeed stronger than before. The artifact spirit slowly turned his head. You know spiritual energy refinement? A little. He almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. This guy actually knew spiritual energy refinement at such a low level. This wasn't the main point. The main point was that if he didn't use spiritual energy refinement to an extremely adept level, he wouldn't be able to grasp formless so quickly. If this was called a little, then he wouldn't be far from breaking through to the next level. This guy was definitely here to cause trouble. Cough cough. Looks like your perception is barely passable. Since you've already grasped formless, you should practice more in the future and completely integrate formless into your fighting style. The higher the level of the heaven domain, the smaller the range of the skill. You might not even be able to see the complete skill in the future. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have a future. I said that I would give you an opportunity, but I didn't expect you to comprehend it on your own. This. How about this? I see that you're missing an arm now, so you can't use many skills, right? I'll give you a set of sword techniques. From now on, you can cultivate here. No matter what you comprehend, it will be better here than outside. Lu Chen widened his eyes and waited for the man to give him the scroll. Unexpectedly, the man disappeared in a flash. Damn it! You stood me up. I've never seen anyone with thicker skin than you. Lu Chen said in shock. Just as he finished speaking, the shrunken heaven splitter sword on the ground suddenly pulled itself out of the ground. Then, the heaven splitter sword began to dance. Sometimes, the sword moved like a dragon and a phoenix, flowing like water. Sometimes, it would explode with energy, and the sword chi would soar into the sky. No way. Don't tell me I'll learn it after seeing it once. Lu Chen exclaimed. He tried his best to memorize the sword moves. Unfortunately, he didn't have the ability to remember everything he saw. Damn it. My opportunity. You've overestimated me. After the sword moves were demonstrated, Lu Chen's heart was already dead. The heaven splitter sword was demonstrated once from beginning to end. Now, he only remembered the ending movement. I'm really speechless. Sigh. Learn sword god level sword technique heaven splitter. I learned it. Lu Chen was pleasantly surprised. Kid, heaven splitter has already been imparted to you. Comprehend it well here. You must integrate formless into heaven splitter to display its power. Wuji, I didn't expect your master to use you. Use heaven splitter. Let me ask you, are you angry? Ha ha ha. The voice finally disappeared. Lu Chen looked at the Wuji sword in his hand and suddenly understood why the Wuji sword trusted this old rival. So, this old rival of yours is actually a joker? Lu Chen frowned slightly. That guy really doesn't have a brain. I didn't beat him back then mainly because his master was too strong. Boss, don't bother with him. You'd better hurry up and cultivate. The heavenly god environment is an extremely rare place to cultivate. The surrounding spirit chi will transform into whatever you want according to your needs. For example, if you want to cultivate spirit power, you can imagine the surroundings as the bottom of the heavenly lake. This place can transform into the heavenly lake spirit vein. You can increase your spirit power here. Other spirit veins are the same, or other battle environments. So magical. No wonder he said cultivating here is much better than cultivating outside. Time was of the essence. Lu Chen couldn't care so much and immediately seized the time to cultivate. However, unexpectedly, the first thing Lu Chen cultivated was not spirit power, formless, or heaven splitter, but the world that heavenly star brought him to. After returning to the initial stage of the world, Lu Chen added the dual polarity yin-yang beads illusion. Heaven's Eye. Chaos spiritual pill. Spiritual chi subtlety. Divine demon symbiosis. Selfless. After Lu Chen entered this state, he was like a rock, motionless. The limitless fiend god sword would not interfere with its master's cultivation, nor would it disturb Lu Chen. Lu Chen blended into this world and began his cultivation. 1 month later, today was an important day for the 7 countries. The East Mountain Ice God finally came out of seclusion. The 7 ancient gods were reunited, and the 7 terminal heavenly mandate formation could finally see the light of day again. In view of the increasing intensity of the war, the rulers of the 7 countries and the 7 ancient gods all headed to the Great Desolate East country located in the middle of the 5th heavenly layer to discuss countermeasures. Even during wartime, the 7 ancient gods' emergence was of utmost importance. In the Great Desolate East country's capital square, hundreds of thousands of people were eagerly waiting, looking at the towering, star-plucking stage in front of them. The 7 super experts would appear there at that time. The 7 ancient gods have finally emerged. We are saved now. The ancient war god is definitely a peak existence in the fifth heavenly layer today. It is said that the new ice god's strength is extremely terrifying. He is already qualified to be on equal footing with the other 6 ancient gods. He has achieved meteoric success in one day. At the end of the square, there was a large group of aborigines who were responsible for building the star-plucking stage. They were also looking in the direction of the star-plucking stage. One of them secretly took out a wooden tablet. The words, "Origin Divine Token," were written on the wooden tablet. However, the Origin Divine Token that used to be faintly glowing had become an ordinary wooden tablet. That person looked at the token with heartache and sighed. The 7 ancient gods have been reborn. What's the use? You are the one who defeated the supreme demon beast. You are the strongest war god. They have been reborn, but you have fallen. We aborigines will never see hope again. Chapter 877. Luo Yao and the other 6 monarchs looked up at the star-plucking platform. The 7 war gods had all arrived at the star-plucking platform. Baisha Nation's Lion King, Penglai Nation's Sea God, Yugui Nation's Yugui, Buzhou Nation's Shinshan, Western Nation's Holy Mother, and Dongyue Nation's Luo Chen, the new Dongyue Ice God. When the 7 appeared at the same time, the hundreds of thousands of people below the platform erupted. Are these the 7 ancient gods? Peak 5th heavenly layer experts. With the 7 gods here, we may not lose. 7 ancient gods, please lead us against the demonic beast army. The return of the 7 gods, we are invincible. The 7 gods stood on the star-plucking platform, looking down at the people below. Their eyes shone brightly as they raised their weapons and shouted in unison, "By the will of the heavens, we exterminate the demonic beasts." With a boom, everyone shouted themselves hoarse. The 7 gods shouted in unison, "Exterminate the demonic beasts." Everyone's passion was reignited by the 7 gods. Luo Yao took a deep breath. She also felt the encouragement of the 7 gods. She looked at East Peak Heavenly Master beside her. "Heavenly Master, did your prophecy foretell the return of the 7 gods? Can't they be the ones to solve the unsolvable hexagram?" The Heavenly Master frowned, replying to Jade Empress, "I didn't think that all 7 gods would be reborn. I can't estimate the strength of the 7 gods. Among the 5th heavenly layers, only Ghoul Sek's Heavenly Master and Living Buddha can see the fates of the 7 gods." Luo Yao said indifferently, "Ghoul Sek's Heavenly Master divined the fall of Ice God and the succession of a new god, but he didn't know if the 7 gods could break the deadlock. As for Living Buddha, that guy has been missing for a long time. Everything was still a mystery. But a mystery was better than a deadlock." Luo Chen's junior sister looked at the familiar yet unfamiliar figure on the platform. She turned to her senior brother and master and said, "I didn't think that eldest senior brother would be worshipped by all races one day. How awe-inspiring." Bo Fan smiled faintly. No matter what, Luo Chen was once his disciple. Seeing him rule the world was also his pride. Luo Kong was a bit disdainful, "What's the use of ruling the world? Don't you think he's changed a lot? It's like he doesn't recognize us." Bo Fan shouted at his disciple, "Miss. Your senior martial brother is shouldering the heavy responsibility of breaking through the heavenly tribulation. You have to understand." Luo Kong still wanted to say something, but seeing that his master was angry, he could only swallow his complaints. In the distance, a middle-aged man with a face scarf and a long robe with a hood was carrying a person on his back. His side was facing the star-plucking platform, so both of them could see what was happening on the platform. The person behind him was also wrapped up tightly, but judging from the figure, it was definitely not a baby. Instead, it was a burly adult. The man slightly lifted the edge of the hood that was blocking his view. Lu Chen's face was full of acne. His face had already festered beyond recognition. Only his eyes were exceptionally bright. At this moment, he was staring blankly at the scene on the star-plucking platform. The middle-aged man carefully said, "Senior Living Buddha, it's about time. You still need to use the 9 mysterious locks to prolong your life." This person was Wu Bang City's city lord, Xian Zhen. And the person on his back was the #1 oracle of the 5th heaven who had been missing for 2 years, Living Buddha. Of course, he also had another identity. He was the new ice god, Luo Chen's master. He had passed on his knowledge to Luo Chen, opening up a terrifying path for him to become stronger. "I've finally become the ice god." Living Buddha's voice was exceptionally weak, but there was uncontrollable excitement in it. Even the divination is starting to become blurry. From the original unsolvable to the current blurry, it was definitely a huge change. Xian Zhen hurriedly asked, "Senior Living Buddha, is this heavenly tribulation saved?" "That's great, your hard work was not in vain. It's still too early to say, but it's just not the same as before. There are no changes." Xian Zhen nodded heavily. It was already good to have this kind of improvement, but he couldn't be too greedy. It's just that Luo Chen, that child, seems to be getting more and more arbitrary. No matter, as long as this heavenly tribulation can be resolved, my mission is complete. Whether Lu Chen recognizes me as his master or what kind of person he becomes, I don't care. Xian Zhen, do you still remember the 2 people you recommended to me in the end when you held the spouse selection tournament? Xian Zhen nodded. I remember, one is Luo Chen, the other is solipsistic. Senior, you chose Luo Chen, and now it seems that you didn't make the wrong choice. Living Buddha nodded. That's right, I also performed divination for the 2 of them. What's interesting is that I divined solipsistic's real name, Lu Chen. N. This name is very common. Xian Zhen asked, puzzled. Living Buddha forced a smile. Lu Chen, Luo Chen, don't you think, it's very similar? Xian Zhen took a deep breath and repeated it a few more times. These 2 people's names were really very similar. Yes, the names are so similar, but they have the same name but different fates. One can conquer the world, the other is surrounded by ominous stars and will definitely fall in the middle. Xian Zhen nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, since 10 months ago, after my people found out that solipsistic appeared at the border of Dongyu country, there hasn't been any news of solipsistic. With his character, I think there's an 80% chance that he's fallen if he doesn't stir up some trouble wherever he goes. It doesn't matter whether he's fallen or not. In the future, the 5th heaven will be Luo Chen's stage. Whether or not he can break through the heavenly tribulation will depend on Luo Chen. Alright, bring me back. I hope I can live for a few more days and see what the future of the 5th heaven will be like. With the arrival of the 7 gods, the 7 countries seem to have found their backbone. They won several battles one after another. Of course, everyone didn't get carried away by the victories of several battles. After that, the 7 countries officially formed an alliance. The defense forces of each country shrank towards the direction of Rhubarb and the other 4 countries, preparing for an even larger magical beast army. After the arrival of the 7 gods and the continuous small-scale victories, the morale of the immortal cultivator army was unprecedentedly high, and the reputation of the 7 gods was growing by the day. However, behind this scene, there were some things that were unknown to the public. Due to the shrinking of the battlefront, 6 of the 7 countries began to abandon the indigenous people on a large scale. They took back some of the city's defensive magic treasures, removed the city defense array, took away the food and moved the entire city, but left behind the indigenous people who had built the fortifications. Only Luo Yao insisted on bringing the indigenous people. Her actions were puzzling. Even though she was the monarch of Dongyu country, she was still under great pressure. Under such circumstances, countless indigenous people became vengeful spirits in the mouths of the magical beast army. Among the indigenous people, another piece of news began to circulate. The origin god token had all lost its effect. Even the last hope left by the origin god had disappeared. As weak as they were, there was no way for them to survive the great war of gods and demons. The immortal cultivators were actively preparing for war, but the indigenous people were already in despair. Luo Yao stood on the city wall and looked at the scattered indigenous people living outside the city. These indigenous people had been abandoned by the White Lion country, but in order to survive, they could only migrate with the defending army and settle down outside the city. There, people were still working hard. The innocent children were dressed in rags, but they were still playing happily. It was as if in their world, happiness was so simple. This wasn't the territory of Dongyu country. Even the Jade Emperor had no right to criticize the policies of other countries. Luo Yao's eyes were slightly wet. I'm sorry. I've been trying my best to persevere, but I still can't take everyone with me. If you were still alive, would you be angry with me? Chapter 878. 3 months later, the magical beast army launched their first large-scale attack from the west side of the White Lion Nation. An army of 700,000 magical beasts formed a long battle formation on the plains. At a glance, they were densely packed, striking fear into one's heart. The magical beast army was personally led by the Black Qilin. They had a huge presence and were pointing their swords at the defense of the 7 nations, Lion Tiger City. The 7 nations had already received the news and immediately mobilized their troops, gathering an army of 2 million cultivators in Lion Tiger City. At the same time, the spell formation masters worked day and night to strengthen the defensive spell formation. Among the 7 deities, the Ice God, Lion King, and Yugui, the 3 great war gods, led their troops to battle. The battle was imminent. The magical beast army destroyed the various traps in front of the city at a very small cost. Then, the magical beast army swarmed toward Lion Tiger City. The 3 great war gods charged out of the city, and millions of deities and demons fought to the death. The battle lasted for 5 days and 5 nights. The 7 nations continuously mobilized large numbers of cultivators to make up for the depleted defenders. In the end, the number of defenders who participated in the battle reached 7 million. At the cost of 7 million deaths, the defenders killed 500,000 enemies and almost wiped out the entire magical beast army. They successfully defended Lion Tiger City in this battle. The death ratio of both sides decreased from the initial 1 to 8 deaths to the current 1 to 5 deaths. The losses were greatly reduced. A general was leading people to clean up the battlefield. The corpses of these magical beasts could be used to strengthen equipment and increase one's strength. They could not miss this opportunity. However, while a banquet was being held at the rear to celebrate the victory, he discovered a problem. The casualties of the magical beast army were all 5th transformation magical beasts and below. There were only less than 50,000 high-level magical beasts. The strength of a 6th transformation magical beast was comparable to a few 5th transformation magical beasts. Actually, the losses of the magical beast army were not as serious as imagined. On the other hand, the 7 million casualties of the defenders were almost all great cultivators and above. Many of them were even earth cultivators. One must know that great cultivators and earth cultivators were already considered quite powerful in the 7 nations. There were hundreds of millions of defenders, but half of them were cultivators and great cultivators. In this way, the victory of this battle was not so perfect. Less than 5 days after the Battle of Lion Tiger City, the magical beast army attacked again. This time, the magical beast army's numbers increased to 3 million. After receiving this news, the defenders hurriedly mobilized troops. There were a total of 20 million defenders. He vowed to guard Lion Tiger City. But at this moment, news suddenly came from the Arctic nation of the Great Wilderness. An army of 5 million magical beasts suddenly appeared from the Polar Sea and launched a surprise attack on the gateway city of the Arctic nation, Aurora City. As the magical beasts were traveling by water this time, it was almost impossible to predict in advance. The 7 countries also needed time to mobilize their troops. In a hurry, they could only gather 15 million troops. Currently, both sides were engaged in battle, and the death ratio was at least 1:5. However, Aurora City's defenders only had 3 times the enemy's number. The situation instantly became urgent. The 7 kingdoms hastily deployed their troops to support, hoping that the Aurora City's defenders could hold on for a few more days. However, even if Aurora City defended the city to the death, the magical beast army had the 2 great heavenly kings, Shirkuan and Torch Dragon, overseeing it. More than half of the 5 million magical beasts were powerful magical beasts of the 5th transformation and above. Their strength was far greater than before. The magical beast army's attack was extremely ferocious. They wanted to take down Aurora City at all costs. Defend. Even if we die, we must defend Aurora City. The Northern Pole King Guotai angrily glared as he stood on top of the city wall. If Aurora City is breached, the demon beasts will be able to travel hundreds of miles south, deep into the hinterlands of the 4 countries of the Great Wilderness. King Guotai, the enemy seems to have gone mad. We can't hold on for much longer. It's hard to hold on without using soul-body unification. When will the reinforcements arrive? If they don't arrive soon, we won't have anyone to replace them with. Where are the 7 deities? Why didn't the 7 deities come when we have so many magical beasts here? King Guotai's eyes were about to split open. Reinforcements. The reinforcements would take at least 1 more day to arrive. However, in the face of such a ferocious attack, how could they have the time to wait for reinforcements? Aurora City was suddenly attacked without any warning, causing even the 7 deities to be unable to make it in time. Now, they could only rely on themselves to hold on. At this moment, a huge magical beast with a human face and a dragon body soared into the sky from afar. It held a candle in its mouth, and the flame flickered. The heaven and earth seemed to be moving along with the flame, sometimes bright, sometimes dark. Not good, Torch Dragon is here. Don't look at the candle light. Close your eyes. Torch Dragon had already activated its skill. Illumination of the sun and moon. In the midst of a life and death battle, not everyone had heavenly vision and spiritual energy refinement. How could most people close their eyes at this moment? Suddenly, the flame of the candle in Torch Dragon's mouth lit up, and the heaven and earth seemed to be illuminated by a strong light. A few cities hundreds of miles away from Aurora City could see a corner of the sky suddenly shining brightly. Under the strong light, countless people's eyes were directly blinded. My eyes. My eyes can't see. The spiritual energy is in chaos, and the skill can't be used. This is blinding and confusion. At this moment, someone heard a low voice. 1,000-year corpse poison. Corpse poison, someone come and help me detoxify. I've been poisoned. It's Corpse Kuan. It took advantage of Torch Dragon's illumination of the sun and moon to activate it. At this moment, the apothecary couldn't even protect himself, so how could he detoxify so many people? King Tai himself was still fine as he had Heavenly God's eye and avoided the illumination of the sun and moon. However, when he opened his eyes, in just a few seconds, hundreds of thousands of people had been slaughtered. A moment later, these hundreds of thousands of people's bodies rapidly turned purplish-black. They died but didn't stiffen, and their bodies stood up again in a strange state. However, after standing up, they turned around and attacked the defenders. It's corpse poison. Not good, the Great City Barrier Formation can't stop these resurrected corpses. The addition of the corpses quickly made the battlefield even more chaotic. A moment ago, they were teammates, but the moment they died, they quickly became enemies. Moreover, the Great City Barrier Formation couldn't stop these resurrected corpses at all. They directly charged into the formation and madly slaughtered the Talisman Masters maintaining the Great City Barrier Formation. The Magical Beast Army originally had low-level magical beasts as the vanguard, but now they had turned into corpses. The defenders' line of defense almost collapsed at the first touch. King Tai stood on the city wall and watched as the number of defenders decreased and the number of corpses increased. Behind the corpses, there was also the magical beast army. Corpse Koan and Torch Dragon were waiting for an opportunity to move. It was as if he could already see that the situation was over, the four heavenly kings of the magical beast army. Their strength is actually so terrifying, killing hundreds of thousands of people in an instant. King Tai said faintly. Aurora City couldn't be saved. Generals, listen to my command. If the city lives, we live. If the city dies, we die. After leaving this sentence, King Tai moved and killed his way into the enemy's formation. In just a short month, after taking down Aurora City, the magical beasts moved from the north to the south. The army was unstoppable and broke through several important cities. The seven nations had no choice but to shrink their defense line again. East Peak Nation, East Pole Nation, West Kingdom to the north, Penglai Nation to the northeast, Yumo Nation to the northwest, Buzhou Nation to the northwest, and Baishar Nation to the west. They formed a small defensive circle. Chapter 879. The imperial city of Dongyue Nation had become the base of the Seven-Nation Alliance. In the Dongyue Palace, the monarchs of the Seven Nations, the Heavenly Masters, and the seven ancient gods were gathered. The demonic beast army this time is even more terrifying than the first great divine demon war. Yugui frowned. I think the current defensive line is still too big. We need to continue shrinking it to allow for more reinforcements. The divine mountain said, the four heavenly kings of the demonic beasts are indeed stronger than before. More importantly, that guy hasn't appeared yet. At the mention of that guy, the palace fell silent. Demonic beast sovereign. He still hadn't appeared. However, the demonic beast army was already forcing the defenders to retreat. UMO couldn't help but say, Seven gods, where's your seven-terminal formation? We've already lost tens of millions of soldiers in a month. Luochen frowned and glanced at UMO. What? Are you doubting us? He's not doubting us. We've already lost time and time again. If we don't counterattack, we'll definitely lose this battle. Luo Yao said seriously. The ice goddess snorted. The seven-terminal formation is powerful. Do you know why demonic beast sovereign doesn't dare to appear? It's because he's afraid of our seven-terminal formation. We can only use it once in a short period of time. If we use it early, who'll deal with demonic beast sovereign when he appears? Give the order to shrink the defensive line immediately. Luo Yao stood up and said angrily, what about the natives? The seven gods all turned to Luo Chen. The Lion King snorted. Jade Empress, did I hear wrong? The war is tense now, and you're still talking about the natives. Just throw those animals away. Why bother asking? They're not animals. They're humans. Luo Yao said angrily. The Lion King stood up angrily. Calm Luo Yao. Watch your attitude when speaking to me. Don't think that a mere monarch like you can be so impudent in front of me. They're humans. What kind of joke is this? If you persist, the Seven-Nation Alliance won't mind having one less burden. Luo Yao suddenly said. No one could leave the Seven-Nation Alliance now. If Dongyue was kicked out of the alliance, the result would be obvious annihilation. The old emperor had handed the Dongyue nation over to her, so how could she let it perish? The East Peak Celestial Master tugged on Luo Yao's sleeve. Jade Empress, don't get into a conflict with the seven gods. After weighing the pros and cons, Luo Yao could only suppress her anger and sit down. Falling Dust snorted coldly. Right now, only we, the seven gods, can possibly save the fifth heaven. You actually have doubts about us? Then let me ask you, if you don't believe us, who do you believe? Original God? Didn't I tell you long ago that the original God has not been reborn? Even the will and consciousness he left behind has dissipated. During the first great war of gods and devils, it was the origin god who severely injured the devil-beast paragon. Unfortunately, this time, there was no origin god. I'll say it again. I don't want to repeat it again. Don't question the 7 gods. Even the monarchs of the 7 countries had to lower their heads in front of the 7 gods. Finally, according to Underworld Ghost strategy, the defense line of the 7 nations shrunk again. With the defense line shrinking, the natives who were scattered outside had no one to rely on again. 2 months later, in the Eastern Peak Nation, a group of natives chased after the retreating soldiers with all their might. Unfortunately, how could they catch up with those cultivators with their speed? The demonic beast army's attacks were getting fiercer and fiercer. According to some immortals, the demonic beast army was about to launch an all-out attack. Now, the 7 nations had shrunk their defense line again and were on high alert. Even the Eastern Peak Nation, which had been trying its best to protect the natives, had no choice but to move quickly and obey orders. Even the Eastern Peak Nation could no longer protect the natives. Soon, the demonic beast army would catch up to them. Only death awaited them. A woman was holding a child in her arms and holding the hand of a slightly older one. She looked at the retreating soldiers in despair, tears falling uncontrollably. For the sake of her child, she had already moved from the 4 nations of the Great Wilderness to the Eastern Peak Nation. Originally, the Eastern Peak Nation would still take care of them and give them a chance to survive. But now, even the Eastern Peak Nation had abandoned them. Looking at the 2 children beside her, the woman's eyes were filled with tears. Finally, she said to the slightly older boy in a trembling voice, "Urgu, Mother. Mother can't run anymore. Mother can't take you and Hohat with her." She squatted down and stuffed a few dozen spirit stones into Urgu's hands. "These are spirit stones. They are very valuable. If you can survive in the future, use these spirit stones to live a life of luxury. Don't let others see. Urgu, run quickly. You must follow those soldiers. If you follow them, you will have a chance to survive." "Mother!" Urgu cried. "I won't go. I want to go with Mother and Hohat." "Go quickly. You have good stamina. You might be able to catch up to them alone. Survive as long as you can." "No, Mother, Hohat, go quickly." Suddenly, there was a rumbling sound behind them. The surrounding natives looked behind them in horror. There were already black shadows darting through the forest. The demonic beasts had arrived so quickly. There were cries of alarm as everyone ran for their lives. The woman was so anxious that she was sweating. "Urgu, listen to Mother. Go quickly." "No." With a smack, the woman hardened her heart and slapped Urgu's face. "Are you trying to anger Mother to death? Mother is begging you. Go quickly. If you don't go, Mother will die in front of you." Urgu had no choice but to run away crying. After running for a while, he turned back to look until he saw a large group of demonic beasts rushing out of the forest. A 2-headed tiger pounced on his mother and Hohat. "Mother! Sister!" However, his mother's gaze was strangely calm. It was as if she had been freed at this moment. She hugged Hohat quietly and gently tidied her hair. "Urgu, let's go find your father now, Mother. What about brother?" "Him. Mother doesn't know whether it was right or wrong to leave him here alone. In a world without hope, what's the point of living?" The demonic beasts attacked and rushed into the natives. Instantly, blood flowed like a river. Urgu ran frantically. All his fear and grief turned into strength. Even when his body was numb and his energy was exhausted, he still could not catch up to the soldiers. However, he was too small a target. He was lucky enough to escape the pursuit of the demonic beasts. "Mother, Hohat. Why why can't they bring us along? Why didn't anyone come to save us? While crying, Ergu took out the Origin God token from his pocket. This token did not originally belong to him. He had only picked it up from the roadside after all the Origin God tokens lost their effects. After picking up this token, he had treated it as a treasure and carried it with him. At this moment, he held the Origin God token tightly and roared at the token. Origin God! Origin God! Where are you? They all say that you are our hope, our God, but did you see it? If you saw it, why didn't you come to save us? In a fit of rage, Buttface broke the decaying wooden tablet. With a crack, the token in Lu Chen's backpack cracked. This sound also woke Lu Chen up. He slowly opened his eyes. The world was chaotic. The stars around him flickered, alternating between light and darkness. Lu Chen stood up. Using his finger as a sword, he swept it at a star. In an instant, the star that could not be hit no matter what was done was split into two. Taking a deep breath and slowly exhaling, Lu Chen said softly, "Half a year is finally up." Chapter 880. After coming out of the divine illusion, Lu Chen turned back to look at the collapsed divine tomb. The heaven-splitting sword was still standing. In the near future, this would become the fifth spirit vein of the fifth heaven, the heaven-splitting spirit vein. At this point, the heavenly pool, origin crystal, heavenly star, and heaven-splitting spirit veins had all been opened. Lu Chen's mission, restart the fifth heaven, was also completed. A map appeared in Lu Chen's backpack. It seemed to be an unexplored spirit stone mine. However, Lu Chen didn't look at the map carefully. He closed his backpack and walked out of the mountain. Little Beast God didn't grow very fast in the past 6 months. Maybe it was because he had finished eating the fragments of the origin crystal. He now looked like a 7 or 8-year-old boy. Little Beast, Little Furball, Rhubarb, let's go. Lu Chen called out lightly. The three of them followed Lu Chen's footsteps. North of the Dongyu Kingdom, the northern plains. The magical beast army was pressing in on the boundless plains. At a glance, the magical beast army's troops were everywhere. After nearly a year of probing and attacking, the magical beast army's troops had been defeated. The magical beast army had pushed the immortal cultivator army to the last line of defense in front of the alliance headquarters. The 7 magical beast generals and the 4 heavenly kings were all in the formation. On the other side, the immortal cultivators of various races had already formed a battle formation on the south side of the plains. However, half a year ago, the immortal cultivator army was much more numerous than the magical beast army. Now, they were not much more numerous than the magical beast army. The 7 ancient gods stood at the forefront of the battle formation. Damn it, is this the final battle? Why hasn't that guy appeared yet? Of course it's the final battle. Otherwise, the 4 heavenly kings wouldn't appear at the same time. Does it think that the 4 heavenly kings alone are enough to kill us? Damn it, the 4 heavenly kings' strength has been confirmed in the previous few battles. They are much stronger than in the first great divine demon war. These magical beasts' strength has been increasing rapidly. Even the 7 magical beast generals have reached the 9th transformation stage. They didn't grow recently, but in the past 3,000 years. They have been occupying various places to increase their strength. Now, the 7 magical beast generals can't be underestimated. The 7 monarchs will deal with the 7 magical beast generals, and we will join forces to deal with the 4 heavenly kings. What if that guy shows up? Who will deal with it? The Lion King snorted coldly. Haven't we already organized those young and strong natives? Let them hold back the low-level demonic beasts while the rest of the immortal cultivators hold back the demonic beast supremacy. We'll kill the 4 heavenly kings first, and then we'll kill the demonic beast supremacy with the 7 ultimate destiny formation. Luo Yao was right behind the 7 gods. She turned around and looked at the side of the army. There were tens of thousands of natives there. Their numbers were no less than that of the defending army of immortal cultivators. At this time, they were also fully armed. Among the aborigines, there were also dragon hunters who hunted magical beasts for a living. Although they could only hunt some low-level magical beasts, they could at least buy some time. However, not all of the aborigines were young and strong. The youngest was only 10 years old, and the oldest was an old man in his 60s. In truth, the 7 gods and the other monarchs did not expect the natives to be able to kill the magical beasts when they decided to recruit them. They only had one goal, to use their lives to buy as much time as possible. Ahui was also in the formation. It wasn't that Luo Yao didn't want to protect her, Luo Yao had done everything she could to stop her, but Ahui insisted on joining the battle. Sister Luo Yao, thank you for your protection these past few days. But now that the final battle has come, I know that you have no choice. Sister Luo Yao, you can't understand how we natives feel right now. Luo Yao could still remember Ahui's desolate expression very clearly. This battle is actually a kind of release for us natives. We have no hope of surviving. In the end, Luo Yao couldn't win against Ahui. In fact, Luo Yao knew that the result would be the same whether they joined the battle or not. The cultivator army was defeated, and they would all die, in one of the formations of the Dongyue army, Lu Yi, Xingchen, Carefree Wind, Beishue Gufei, Dongfang Ji, Yan Ran, the Shuang sisters, Suowang, and the others were all present. Even if Luo Yao had protected them, there was no need to talk about protection when it came to the final battle. Everyone would have to fight. Beishue Gufei used to be a heavenly general in the immortal army. Logically speaking, he had commanded many battles, but now he was especially nervous. This was a battle of the fifth heaven, a battle of real swords and spears. Everyone, pay attention. Don't leave me. Beishue Gufei held Lu Yi's hand tightly. Don't leave my side. Even if I die, I won't let anything happen to you. Other than her brother, Gufei was the only one who was willing to sacrifice his life for Lu Yi. Lu Yi nodded heavily. Shuang Ling stood at the front of the formation. Everyone, pay attention. Our battle formation must not be messed up. According to the order we discussed in advance, use soul-body fusion one by one until someone replaces us. Although Shuang Ling's strength was strong, once the soul-body fusion time ended, her spiritual power would not be enough to support the huge consumption of many skills. As the vanguard of the Earth Army, there would naturally be people who were responsible for sending the important information back to Earth when they encountered the fifth heaven. An Earth player adjusted the image stone. He wanted to record the process of this battle. If there was a chance in the future, he could leave it for future people to watch. He said to the image stone, I may not have the chance to send the image stone back. Our human path of cultivation may only reach this step. Sorry, I'm afraid we can't continue with the guide plan. At this moment, a black giant beast walked out from the demonic beast army. It was one of the 4 heavenly kings, Black Qilin. It stood in front of the formation as if nothing had happened. Its gaze swept across the tens of millions of defenders. Finally, it snorted coldly. What? You only have so few people. 7 ancient gods. We meet again. Last time, I gave you a chance to be reborn. But this time, none of you can escape. Yu Gui stepped forward and shouted, Black Qilin, you talk big. Isn't your master so scared that he doesn't dare to show his face? It was obvious that the other party was trying to provoke him, to test the demonic beast sovereign situation. However, Black Qilin only laughed loudly. To kill you ants, do you need my king to do it? What a joke. Black Qilin, no matter how strong your master is, he's still lost. Lion King stepped forward. Lost? Don't you feel that this word is ironic coming from your mouths? The 7 of you don't have the right to say this word. Black Qilin's voice was loud like a bell. Even the strongest original god had to self-destruct to injure my king. What do you think you are? Now, the original god has been dead for thousands of years. The fifth heaven is just a possession in my king's pocket. I believe that you heavenly masters have already given the answer. It's just that you don't want to believe it. Falling Dust narrowed his eyes slightly and said coldly, "Is that so? With my new ice god here, how can you be so arrogant? Bring it on." Chapter 881. New Ice God. Who the hell is this kid? Black Cheelan's huge eyes swept across Fallen Dust. Don't you know that even your predecessor was ridiculously weak? Fallen Dust's nose flared. Arrogant. Last time, the 7 ancient gods defeated you 4 heavenly kings. Have you forgotten? Defeated? Kid, you still don't know anything. You want to fight? Fine, don't you 7 ancient gods think you're very strong? Didn't you think you defeated us 4 heavenly kings? Fine, do the 7 of you dare to fight me in front of the army? If you win, we'll retreat and never take half a step out of the magical beast lair. How about it? The Black Cheelan's voice was powerful and resonant. The hundreds of millions of cultivators here were all shocked after hearing the Black Cheelan's words. What did Black Cheelan say? It wants to fight the 7 ancient gods alone. That's right, I heard it too. It said that as long as it wins, the magical beast army will retreat to the magical beast lair and never take half a step out of it. Is this guy crazy? The 7 ancient gods defeated the 4 heavenly kings in the first great divine demon war. 4 against 7 still lost, and now it wants to fight the 7 ancient gods alone. Even the 7 kings and 7 gods couldn't believe their ears. Is this guy crazy? Fighting the 7 ancient gods alone? Don't believe it's nonsense, it might be a trap. Black Cheelan's challenge completely disrupted the 7 ancient gods' strategy. Divine Mountain shouted, "Don't think of playing any tricks. Do I need to play any tricks with ants like you? I can swear on my 4 heavenly kings' beast soul that I, Black Cheelan, will fight the 7 ancient gods alone. If I lose, the magical beast army will retreat to the magical beast lair and never invade again." Only extremely powerful magical beasts had beast souls. To magical beasts, swearing on their beast souls meant that if they broke the oath, they would sign a contract with the other party and become the other party's battle pet. Even super powerhouses like the 4 heavenly kings could only be enslaved once they signed a contract. Therefore, a beast soul oath couldn't be fake. Since there's such a good deal, we naturally have no reason to reject it. The Holy Mother looked at the other 6 gods. They all had the same idea. There really wasn't a better deal than this. If he didn't agree, he would be a fool. The 7 ancient gods stepped out and walked toward the center of the battlefield. The Black Cheelan's figure flashed and arrived in the middle of the 2 armies. The 7 gods immediately spread out and surrounded the Black Cheelan, but the Black Cheelan didn't move at all. Instead, its eyes gradually burned with rage. For thousands of years, when people talked about the Great Divine Infernal War, they all thought that you defeated us, the 4 heavenly kings. Very well, in these few days, I will make you understand a truth. If the origin god doesn't come out, you are all trash. It had to be said that even though the Black Cheelan was a magical beast, it spoke the thoughts of countless natives. Countless pairs of despairing eyes looked at the field. For the Aborigines, there was no victory or defeat in this battle. At most, it was just a matter of whether they could live a little longer. However, the Black Cheelan's words made them both proud and sorrowful. The man who defied the heavens with the body of a mortal and became the strongest person at the peak of level 5 was feared by the magical beast army. Even the Black Cheelan, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the magical beasts, wanted to clear his name. That man back then was such a dazzling existence. The origin god. So, the magical beast army is only afraid of the origin god. Unfortunately, the origin god is no longer here. Ergo took out the origin god medallion that he had broken, and tears streamed down his face. Origin god, if you can hear me, Ergo begs you to let Ergo live. I want to become another you. Avenge my mother, avenge my daughter. In the vast field, the battle between the 7 gods and the Black Qilin had already begun. How dare you be so arrogant in front of the 7 of us? Black Qilin, you must have forgotten that we still have the Destiny 7 Ultimate Formation. Set up the formation, soul and body as one. Destiny 7 Ultimate Formation. The 7 ancient gods of war entered the soul and body as one state at the same time. For a moment, wild spirit chi surged outward. The 7 of them all transformed, emitting a terrifying aura. That's the 7 gods. Dongfang Ji's eyes widened. They only entered the soul and body as one state, and they already have such terrifying spirit chi. Gu Fei said in a low voice. They are all at the level of Theo the Great. Their attributes are already in the millions, not to mention their battle souls. Back then, the 5th heaven spirit chi was abundant. Whether it was the battle soul or the battle body, it was far from what it is now. I wonder what the Black Qilin is relying on to dare to challenge the 7 gods alone. The 7 of them were already standing in the eye of the Destiny 7 Ultimate Formation, trapping the Black Qilin within. At this moment, the Black Qilin also moved. Metamorphosis, Divine Beast. Luo Yao couldn't help but gasp when she heard these words. Divine. Divine Beast. True Body. It has already broken through to become a 9th transformation Divine Beast. Oh my god, it has already reached the Divine Beast True Body realm. Isn't this the same as the prime of magical beasts back then? Oh no, the 7 gods have underestimated the enemy. It can't be said that they underestimated the enemy. Even if they didn't agree to the duel, we would have suffered more casualties. No matter what, the duel is our only hope. The king of Buzhou country said. At this moment, everyone could only agree with him. If they didn't duel, would the Black Qilin not transform into a divine beast? Obviously not. Not only it, but the other 4 heavenly kings weren't weak either. No wonder the Black Qilin was so confident. It has actually reached the divine beast realm. Everyone, be careful, we must fight with all our strength. Yu Gui shouted. 7 Ultimate Formation, Soul Kill. The 7 of them were unusually coordinated, shooting out 7 rays of sword energy from their weapons at the same time. The 7 rays of sword energy didn't shoot directly at the Black Qilin. Instead, they were evenly distributed, spinning rapidly around the Black Qilin like a blood guillotine that was rapidly shrinking. The 7 Ultimate Formation prohibited movement. Being trapped by the shrinking blood guillotine would definitely cause great damage. However, the Black Qilin suddenly roared, you think a mere 7 Ultimate Formation is invincible? Lunar Eclipse, Eternal Dark Side. The 8-eyed evil spirit had a skill called Lunar Eclipse, Dark Side of the Moon. It was extremely powerful, and even Luo Yao couldn't withstand it. The Black Qilin's skill seemed to be an upgraded version of that fellow. It was still daytime, but suddenly, the sky darkened as if it was night. Suddenly, dozens of light pillars shot down from the night sky. At first glance, it seemed as if the energy from the stars in the sky was being projected here. The Black Qilin didn't care about the soul kill at all. The light pillars directly hit the 7 gods. Boom! 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 Instantly, the 7 gods could be vaguely seen rushing out of the light pillars. However, the ground that was hit by the light pillars had been blasted into cylindrical pits that were dozens of meters wide. Each of the pits had a diameter of 100 meters. The 7 gods seemed to have all been injured by the aftershocks. They all spat out mouthfuls of blood and looked at the Black Qilin in horror. This is the power of the stars. This isn't the power of a level 5. We've clearly avoided the light pillars, but our spiritual energy is still chaotic. We can't use it at all and can't continue supporting the 7 ultimate formation. That's the power of the stars. Damn it, the 7 ultimate formation was broken in one move. For a period of time, they could only use the 7 ultimate formation once. No matter how many moves they used, as long as they left the 7 ultimate formation, they wouldn't be able to use it again in this battle. Unbelievable. How did the Origin God defeat the Devil Beast Sovereign? Lion King said in horror. The Devil Beast Sovereign had reached the Divine Beast True Body realm, and the Origin God had defeated that powerful Devil Beast Sovereign. Countless people looked at the Black Qilin in horror. The 7 ultimate formation of the 7 gods hadn't even been fully used before it was broken by the Black Qilin in his Divine Beast True Body state. In other words, the 7 gods had been defeated in one move. The Black Qilin looked at the 7 gods indifferently. I've already said that you are all ants. Do you still not believe me? The fate of the level 5 has already been decided. Unless the Origin God is reborn, all of you will have the same fate. Chapter 882. In a duel between generals, the morale of both sides would be affected the most. The power displayed by the Dark Qilin had already driven the magical beast army into a frenzy. They roared wantonly at the defenders, eager to give it a try. It was as if they couldn't wait to charge over and kill them. On the other hand, the 7 gods were defeated by the Black Qilin, one of the 4 heavenly kings. They knew that they would lose this battle. Lu Yi's mind had never been so clear. The rumors were true. No one could solve the 5th tribulation. To be able to reach the 5th heavenly layer, perhaps she really had no regrets. She had seen so many aliens, strange beasts, and magical beasts. She had seen a real world of immortal cultivation. These were things that the ordinary esports girl had never dared to imagine. Her only regret was that she didn't have the chance to go back to the real world and say goodbye to her brother. She had finally reached the 5th heaven. She thought she could find her brother, but she didn't know where he was. But this was good. At least her brother still had a chance to live. Gu Fei held Lu Yi's hand tightly and looked at her affectionately. I'm sorry. I didn't meet your brother, so I couldn't fight with him. Lu Yi looked at Gu Fei with gratification. After being together for so long, this man had always been by her side and had been a great help to the players on Earth. Gu Fei had practiced day and night for the sake of his brother's promise to marry my sister. Unfortunately, he didn't even get to meet his brother. It's okay. Even if I can't meet my brother, I promise you. I won't listen to him this time. Really? No. What if your brother beats me? Hey, we're about to die. Can you two stop showing off your love? Dongfang Ji glared at them. You're about to die, but you still want to show off your love. Can you consider my feelings? Cowherd summoned a battle tiger and patted its back. Little Genesis, I'm sorry. I didn't help you find that brat. The battle tiger was transformed by Little Genesis. Cowherd was a beast tamer, so he transformed into a battle tiger to fool others. There was a hint of reluctance in his eyes. Boss, Little Furball, Little Genesis completed the mission of the 3rd heaven and finally reached the 5th heaven. But I didn't get to meet you. Xiao Yuan. I miss Boss. I miss Furball. Rhubarb. Xiao Yuan can't die. Cowherd felt sad. He nodded, Little Originator, no matter what, we must fight to the end. With a long sigh, Cowherd Man looked into the distance. Brat, if you're still in the 5th layer of heaven, don't ever come back. In the center of the battlefield, the battle between the Black Qilin and the 7 gods wasn't over yet. It suddenly stomped its front hooves on the ground, and 2 cracks instantly appeared on the ground. Like lightning, they tore towards the Lion King and Luo Chen. Now it's my turn to attack, roar. I'll kill you trash first, then I'll slaughter you ants. Splitting mountain and splitting earth. If they dodged this attack, the army behind them would definitely be injured. Falling dust tried to block it and shouted, "Ancient Buddha golden body." Boom! Instantly, the ground cracked and blasted Luo Chen's body. Although the fissure didn't seem too violent, it contained an unimaginable power. Spiritual energy instantly struck the golden body. No, although the fissure was blocked, the spiritual energy contained in the fissure passed through the golden body and directly struck Luo Chen's body. Luo Chen's body was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Luo Chen violently spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes filled with shock. This spiritual energy attack actually penetrated my shield. His shield had blocked the fissure, but his body had lost half of its life. If he hadn't obtained many opportunities, this attack would have taken his life. Heavens, the black Qilin heavily injured the ice god with a casual move. Its strength is too terrifying. It's over, we have no chance of winning this battle. The 7 gods can't even defeat one of the 4 heavenly kings. It looks like the prophecy is about to come true. On a distant mountain, Xian Zhen and Living Buddha were speechless for half a year as they watched Luo Chen's heavily injured figure fly away. After a long time, Xian Zhen sighed. Man proposes, God disposes. But I didn't expect that despite our careful planning, Luo Chen's strength would rise so quickly, he couldn't even withstand a single blow from the black Qilin. Living Buddha suddenly coughed violently. He was already physically and mentally exhausted, but he still ignored his body and wailed, "It's hard to defy fate, it's hard to defy fate, it's hard to defy fate. 5th heavenly layer, it's hard to escape this calamity." Lion King saw Luo Chen's situation and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The black Qilin's move didn't seem to be undodgeable, but they had no choice but to take it head-on. Because if they didn't, the fissure would directly attack the army behind them. But if they took it head-on, the spiritual energy had an extremely strong penetrative effect. If it hit the body directly, they would be heavily injured or even killed. At this critical moment, he quickly flashed towards the natives' army. The fissure chased after him. Luo Yao's eyes widened as she instantly understood Lion King's intention. He wanted to protect the army, so he led the fissure to the natives' side. This guy. What a bastard. Luo Yao couldn't care less. Her figure moved and flashed towards the natives' army. The natives weren't stupid. When they saw Lion King rushing towards them with the black Qilin's attack, they roughly understood Lion King's intention. But what could they do now? They couldn't run away, and they couldn't dodge. Ergo looked on helplessly as Lion King stopped in front of his formation, his eyelids twitching. He had just prayed for the origin god's protection, hoping that he could survive. But now, it seemed that he would be the first to die. Father. Mother. Second girl. Ergo's eyes widened in anger as he squeezed his hand into the origin god token. Lion King had already reached his desired position and calculated the timing. When the fissure was about to hit him, he quickly activated 100 Beast Shadow and successfully dodged the fissure's attack. The black Qilin slightly narrowed his eyes. Lion King, I didn't expect you to be such a coward. You actually dared to dodge my heaven and earth rend? Well, since you don't care about the lives of your subordinates, I'll take advantage of this opportunity to send them to hell. Lion King's previous position was a few meters in front of the natives' army. In such a short distance, the fissure's attack didn't change direction and directly blasted towards the natives' army. Lion King finally heaved a sigh of relief. That guy didn't chase after him. Want to kill me? Not so easy. Who cares if they live or die? Lion King escaped, leaving behind the natives to face the black Qilin's terrifying attack. At this moment, a silver figure flashed over. It's Jade Empress. Although Jade Empress was strong, the 7 gods were no match for the black Qilin. How could she block this attack? But Luo Yao didn't care. Luo Yao stood in front of the natives' army and stood in front of the fisher's tentacles. She drew out purple firmament daybreak and shouted, Sword Dao limitless ultimate move, limitless reversal. Chapter 883. Purple clouds breaking night stabbed into the ground and collided with the tentacles of the earth fisher. A huge spiritual energy wave came crashing down. Luo Yao spat out a mouthful of blood, but her hands held the sword hilt tightly. Emperor Blood awakening. Suddenly, Luo Yao's eyes glowed red, and a terrifying spiritual energy burst out from her body to resist the attack. Luo Yao turned the sword hilt fiercely, and the earth fisher was repelled. This was a fighting style of using 4 ounces to deflect 1,000 caddies. Fortunately, he had this kind of technique. Otherwise, Luo Yao would not have been able to withstand this attack. The ground cracked toward the army of demonic beasts. Black Qilin frowned slightly, "It's you? Humph, for these people, you dare to resist my attack. You're much more courageous than that Lion King." Then, Black Qilin stepped out 2 more times. One hit the earth fisher that was repelled by Luo Yao, and the other hit Luo Yao again. Black Qilin had completed 1 attack and 1 defense. Compared to the desperate defense of the cultivators, it was on a completely different level. This time, I'd like to see if there's any idiot who will come to save you. Luo Yao spat out a mouthful of blood and watched the second earth fisher coming toward her. Behind her were the natives. She could not dodge, but she did not have the strength to resist it again. "Jade Empress, run!" The natives cried behind her. For them, Jade Empress was the only king who would consider their lives and protect them in times of war. No one else would be willing to stand up for them. Now that Jade Empress was willing to sacrifice herself to protect them, they were already satisfied. "Jade Empress, we natives thank you for your kindness. Protect Jade Empress, we'll block it." At this moment, Jade Empress raised her hand and stopped everyone. Her silver armor was stained with blood, and her white cloak was fluttering in the wind. She took out purple clouds breaking night. To be honest, Luo Yao did not expect that she would sacrifice herself for the natives. Maybe she was led astray by that person for half a year. "If I don't protect you, that person will be angry with me when he comes back." Luo Yao wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. "Shui, senior uncle, a tie, shall we? I promised him to protect you and treat the aborigines well. I've already gone back on my word in front of him once. So this time, even if I have to risk my life, I won't go back on my word." In the distance, Xuanling clenched her fists tightly. "We were overthinking. The Jade Empress, she is a good person. She really wanted to help her, but there were still many people here who needed her protection. She had only been in the 5th heaven for a short period of time, and her body was not strong enough. She could only use soul-body unification. However, soul-body unification only lasted for an hour. If he used it now, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long if a fight broke out. Luo Yao risked her life to open the second fissure, but she was already heavily injured. Her silver armor was already dyed red with blood. She stood up shakily and stood alone in front of the natives. "Jade Emperor! Hurry up and leave. You will die if you continue like this." Ergo cried bitterly. However, the 3rd time, the Black Qilin seemed to be angered. This mere Emperor-level cultivator actually blocked his attacks twice. This time, he attacked Luo Yao with 4 consecutive earth-shattering attacks. Everyone knew that the Jade Emperor wouldn't be able to block them this time. Luo Yao only felt that her body was on the verge of collapse. She pulled out purple firmament breaking night again, but her eyes were incomparably firm. "If you want to kill them, kill me first." Emperor Blood awakening. Limitless sword Dao, limitless reversal. After using this sword, Luo Yao only felt that her whole body was relaxed. "Hey, can you share some of your roasted snow rabbit with me? I haven't eaten for a few days." In the snow, a breathtakingly beautiful woman said to a young man. That was the first time they met. Later, she heard the story of him and Shui-er's grand-uncle. Under the moonlight, Shui-er leaned on his shoulder and looked at the stars in the northern sky. "For 2 months, I will ensure his safety." This was perhaps the only promise between them. "Hey, you still want to take the lion's share? You almost ruined my plan with that long face of yours." At that time, she saw that guy's cunning side. Amidst the rain of arrows, he hugged her tightly and protected her in his arms. "It's okay, I'm already used to being heavily injured. Also, I don't like to be full of blood when fighting." In front of the abyss, she watched as he fell into the astral wind, and waited for 7 days and 7 nights. In the past few hundred years, perhaps this was the only time he had truly lived. It was good to be able to leave with these memories. It was a pity that she didn't really get along with him. Even if it was just watching the sunset together, it would be good. Ha 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 ha, now you know how trashy you are. Let's see how you block it. In today's great war of gods and demons, I will use your life as a sacrifice to show the might of my demonic beast army. The 7 gods are just dogs. The Jade Emperor's death is not regrettable. Everyone, listen up, kill the 5. The last word, heaven, was not uttered. Suddenly, an extremely small black shadow streaked across the sky like a bolt of black lightning. Its speed and the ferocious spiritual energy it contained caused the black Qilin, the torch dragon, the white dragon, and the corpse Kuan to look at the sky. In just an instant, the black shadow was in front of Luo Yao. 4 fissures appeared from all directions, and all of them struck the black shadow. With a loud bang, the huge collision of spiritual energy completely exploded. In an instant, the earth shook, and sand filled the sky. Not long after, when the smoke and dust dissipated, people found that the area of the explosion had a huge crater with a diameter of dozens of meters. Whether it was the earth-splitting attack or the spiritual energy penetration, they were all exhausted in the explosion just now. Luo Yao raised her head in shock. She was very clear that it was not her infinite reversal that blocked the 4 cracks, but the black shadow just now. Everyone looked at the black shadow in the crater. When they saw the black shadow clearly, their brains short-circuited. In the center of the crater, there was only a wooden tablet. It was the most ordinary wooden tablet, about the size of a palm. At this moment, it was floating in the air and rotating slowly. As the wooden tablet rotated, people saw the 3 words on it again and again. Origin God Token. Ergo almost cried out in shock. All the natives seemed to have been struck by lightning, and their minds went blank. Countless guards were also shocked speechless. Luo Chen held his chest with one hand and stared at the Origin God Token with wide eyes. What's going on? Didn't the Origin God Token lose its effect? Could it be that the Origin God has been reborn? The Origin God has been reborn. That's impossible. Even the demonic beast army was shocked and they saw this token. Impossible, impossible. That guy can't be reborn. Suddenly, Luo Yao turned to look at the sky. In the setting sun, a figure was walking slowly with his back against the light. Against the direction of the light, he walked alone. He did not want to become a god or a demon. He only wanted to have a clear conscience. If there's darkness in front of me, I'll slash it with my sword. If there's a god in front of me, I'll slash it with my sword. Luo Yao's eyes were instantly wet, and she said 4 words. Solipsistic. Chapter 884. Who is it? Many people also saw the figure in the distance, but they could not see his face clearly. They could only see his silhouette. The slightly thin figure seemed to be the result of surviving in the wilderness for a long time. The most eye-catching thing was that one of his arms and shoulders were missing. Missing his physical body. To cultivators, they knew very well what it meant to have a missing physical body. Their 3 attributes would be permanently lowered and they would be unable to use many skills. It could be said that a missing physical body was enough to ruin a cultivator's future. However, such a person's steps were unusually steady. His aura was enough to rival the 4 heavenly kings and the 7 generals of the demonic beasts. An ordinary token could release such terrifying power. This made the Black Qilin dare not continue to order the attack. Everyone was desperately searching in their minds, trying to find a match for this person. However, they could not find him. However, although the world did not know him, there was a close friend who recognized the figure in a glance. Brother Du Quang. Among the natives, a girl's eyes were instantly wet. In this world, only Brother Du Quang and Sister Luo Yao would protect the natives. Especially solipsistic. In her heart, she had already regarded him as one of the natives. Ergo looked at the figure in shock. He seemed to remember that such a person used spirit stones to buy the wheelbarrow at home. He is one of the natives. In the distance, Lu Yi and the rest recognized Lu Chen at a glance. Even if he was missing an arm, they would definitely recognize him. Brother. Lu Yi's eyes turned red. Yes, she only remembered that she could not find her brother. However, she forgot that if Lu Chen knew that she was in danger, he would definitely climb out of hell to protect her sister even if he had to go to the depths of hell. In the East Peak Plains, a gentle breeze blew. Gradually, the wind became violent. Above their heads, the stars in the daytime could be seen moving. The heavenly masters from various countries looked at the sky in shock. Living Buddha also noticed this scene. He hurriedly checked the stars. After a while, his eyes widened. No, how is this possible? Senior Living Buddha, what's wrong? Xian Zhen asked anxiously. Variable. A variable has appeared in the unsolvable divination. But this is not scientific. Why did the stars move? Why did the divination change? Don't tell me, it's to defy the heavens and change fate. Xian Zhen couldn't understand Living Buddha's mutterings at all, but he roughly understood that an unknown variable had appeared in the previously unsolvable divination. Not even the Living Buddha could see through it. The strong wind messed up Luo Yao's long hair. She had just moved away from the hair blocking her line of sight when she saw a red ribbon appear in front of her. She raised her head in shock and saw a face that she couldn't be more familiar with. Lu Chen said with some embarrassment, I saw it in a small shop in the West Kingdom. The owner seemed to have run away, so I took it. I think it suits you, but I don't know if you'll like it. Luo Yao was about to be angered to death by this fellow. Didn't he know that no matter what he gave her, she would be happy? You stole a ribbon for me? It can't be considered stealing. That place has already been flattened by the magical beast army. It should be considered picking it up. Lu Chen explained seriously, I remembered that you always like to tie up your hair. It was a pity that this ribbon fell on the ground and no one wanted it, so I picked it up and washed it. If the origin god was here, he would definitely be moved to tears. This fellow actually listened to him. He actually knew how to give a gift to a girl. This was simply unprecedented. What was interesting was that Lu Chen, under the gaze of hundreds of millions of eyes, did nothing but give Luo Yao a gift first. But no one dared to disturb him. Even the magical beast army was biding their time. There was no other way. Lu Chen's origin god token was still floating behind him. It seemed to be telling everyone that if they wanted to make a move now, they'd better weigh the consequences first. The little boy pushed through the crowd and ran in front of Lu Chen, interrupting Lu Chen and Luo Yao's conversation. Sir, are you the origin god? Lu Chen looked at the little boy in surprise. After thinking for a while, he suddenly said, Ergu? Where are your mother and sister? My mother and my second daughter, were killed by magical beasts. Ergu said while crying. But he didn't want to recall this. He suddenly raised his head and tugged at Lu Chen's arm. Sir, tell me. What's up with that token? Is the Origin God still alive? The Origin God token has clearly lost its effect. Why is your Origin God token so powerful? This question wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface. Almost all the natives looked at Lu Chen nervously. It was like a person in despair who saw a ray of light. They desperately wanted to know the answer. His answer might change their fate. Luo Yao took the ribbon and tied up her long hair. She also looked at Lu Chen. It wasn't just the natives. Everyone on the battlefield was waiting for Lu Chen's answer. Lu Chen turned around and looked at the token. He remembered the Origin God. I beg you to be reborn in my place and fight for the natives. Lu Chen lowered his head slightly and looked at Ergu. If you're asking about the former Origin God, then he actually died a long time ago. What he left behind was just a weak remnant soul. Luo Yao heard Lu Chen's words. She looked at Lu Chen in surprise. The original Origin God. Then there's a new Origin God? Ergu wasn't stupid. He immediately asked, Sir, do you mean there's a new Origin God? Where is he? Will he come to save us? Suddenly, Luo Yao, who had been thinking with her head lowered, looked up. Her eyes widened as she stared at Lu Chen. Lu Chen nodded at her. He squatted down and patted Ergu's shoulder. Don't worry, Ergu. He's here. He'll fight for you. With that, Lu Chen stood up. His gaze instantly turned cold. Immediately after, Lu Chen's figure disappeared. In the next second, he was in front of Leonis. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. Lu Chen didn't even use his sword. He just used his sword fingers as a sword. More than 1,000 streaks of sword energy shot toward Leonis. All of this happened too suddenly. In addition, Lu Chen could move as he pleased. Leonis didn't have time to dodge. He was hit directly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A large amount of sword energy directly tore Leonis into pieces. Seeing this scene, many people couldn't react. That guy instantly killed one of the 7 gods, Leonis. Is he crazy? The 7 gods are extremely powerful. Why did he kill Leonis? Whose side is he on? He said he's fighting for the original Origin gods. The other 6 gods' eyes almost popped out. Leonis died just like that. What are you trying to do? Even if you're the new Origin God and you're fighting for the original Origin gods, you should unite against the outside world. Why did you kill Leonis? You killed us. Do you want to fight the magical beast army alone? Faced with all these questions, Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. His gaze swept across the 6 of them. It paused for a moment on Luo Chen. Of the 7 ancient war gods, other than him, the other 6 are the same as the magical beast army. Lu Chen's eyes emitted a faint green fog. I'll use the 6 ancient war gods to pay for the lives of you and your wife. All of you have to die. Chapter 885. Only the natives knew why the 6 ancient gods had to die. When they died, they sacrificed millions of natives and were reborn with the help of the natives' bodies. They had never treated the natives as human beings. That was why the original gods were not reborn. At this moment, all the natives knew that the man in front of them was the new original god. A god of war who truly fought for the natives. Are you crazy? You want to kill the 7 ancient gods before the war? Do you want the demonic beast army to destroy the 5th heaven? Yu Guo shouted angrily. Could it be that you are not a cultivator? Shen Shan also shouted. Lu Chen smiled. Didn't I just say that all of you are going to die? Little beast. Lu Chen waved his hand, and a young man walked out from behind the natives. There was a little white mouse and a dog called Rhubarb by his side. As it ran, little Furball suddenly ran off course. It stood there and looked at a certain place in the immortal cultivator army, its small eyes rolling. Little Furball, father is calling us. Little beast hurriedly stopped. Rhubarb, why are you also? Before his voice died away, a ferocious tiger darted out from afar. Big Yellow brought the little Furball and ran all the way to meet the tiger. Lu Chen looked at the tiger in surprise. Although he did not recognize what was so special about the tiger, he saw a group of people behind it. Lu Yi, Cowherd, Gufei, Xuanling, Saintus, and some earth players. Little Furball and Rhubarb ran to the tiger and played affectionately, as if they were old friends reuniting after a long time. There were only a few war pets that could make little Furball not want to eat them. Lu Chen suddenly thought of one. Little Originator. Is it you? The tiger rushed to Lu Chen and rubbed its huge head against Lu Chen intimately. It's really you. Lu Chen was very excited. He had long wanted to go back to pick up Originator, but he had not found a way to return to the third layer of heaven. However, the junior Originator had chased him from the third heaven to the fifth heaven. Brother! Your hand! Lu Yi rushed in front of Lu Chen, tears streaming down her face. Lu Chen smiled and said, silly girl, it's okay. It's just an arm. There will be ways to grow it back in the future. These old friends had been through thick and thin with Lu Chen. It was just that this place was not suitable for catching up. Otherwise, they would have been able to chat for days and nights. Lu Yi, you guys go to Luo Yao's place first. I'll come and find you guys after I've settled things here. Brother, be careful of the 4 heavenly kings of the magical beasts. Their power is too terrifying. Lu Chen smiled and nodded. Don't worry, your brother is even scarier. Everyone also knew that this battle was not something they could help with, so they all shifted their attention to the natives. Only Junior Originator refused to leave. Now that Junior Originator was by his side, Lu Chen could check its situation. He briefly checked Junior Originator's situation and found that it was not a puppet now. Now, Junior Originator was a spiritual body with its own consciousness. Lu Chen did not know why Junior Originator had become like this, but since it had its own consciousness, it should be able to estimate its own combat capability. Seeing that Junior Originator was eager to have a try, Lu Chen smiled slightly. Well, Junior Originator, since you want to stay, you will fight with them, Lu Chen said. Little beast, I'll leave these 5 people to the 4 of you. Remember, none of them can survive. Yes, father, leave them to us. Little beast, little furry, and Junior Originator stood in front of Rhubarb, but Rhubarb seemed to be responsible for cheering them on. He barked at the 5 people fiercely and then hid behind little furry. If any one of the 7 states dares to interfere, you don't have to be polite to them. Lu Chen turned around and walked toward the army of monsters. Luo Yao was the first to give an order that nobody should interfere in the matter of the god of origin. The other 6 emperors looked at each other in bewilderment. Nobody was willing to bet on the god of origin anymore. Behind him, little furry had enlarged, and 18 illusions of divine beasts appeared on its body. Unwilling to be outdone, Junior Originator roared and took the lead to charge at the ghost. Good heavens! What are those things? Why are those battle pets so strong when that guy hasn't achieved soul-body fusion yet? Is that a sky-swallowing rat? It's said that it's not restricted by Jyotian laws. 18 illusions of divine beasts. Is that kid a human being or a battle pet? After taking more than 100 fragments of the protocrystal, little beast was no longer as strong as when it was slaughtering Class 2 and Class 2s in the Demon Eye Valley. At the same time, more people fixed their eyes on Lu Chen. The battle there would determine the fate of the level 5. Lu Chen kept moving forward until he was less than 5 meters away from the Black Qilin. Even the Black Qilin felt uncomfortable at such a distance. It's you. Lu Qin smiled faintly. It seems that the four of you are stronger than before. I have helped you by opening the 5 spirit veins. Good that you know. In order to increase your own strength, you continuously opened up the spirit veins, allowing us to become unprecedentedly strong. You're the one who raised the stakes to this point. Lu Qin snorted. You're right, but on the other hand, you didn't stop me because you wanted to become stronger. That's why I'm here. What can you do on your own? Can you stop an army of 10 million? Moreover, the strength of our king has already reached a level unimaginable to the 5th heavenly layer. You, the solipsistic king, can't defy nature. Lu Qin sneered. What does it have to do with you whether I can defy nature or not? Do you think you're the best? You hurt my friend just now, didn't you? Lu Chen's sudden words stunned the Black Qilin for a moment. It had seen Lu Chen and Luo Yao together, so it knew what Lu Chen was referring to. Oh, you mean that trash? I hurt her, so what? My beast army has the 7 generals and the 4 heavenly kings. Each of them is as strong as 1,000,000 soldiers. I also have an army of 10 million. Gods and demons can't stop me, and I have the strongest. But you're just one person. Oh, right, you have a bunch of battle pets. They're quite strong, but what's interesting is that you're going to use them against the 7 gods. I don't know if I should thank you, you idiot. Lu Qin shook his head. Okay, I know you have a lot of people. Aren't you tired of counting your troops every day? The Black Qilin almost vomited blood. It was showing off its strength seriously, but in this guy's eyes, it was a stupid thing to do. Suddenly, Lu Qin raised his head and looked at the Black Qilin and the magical beasts behind it. Since you have a lot of people, how about this? Hearing these words, Xiao Feng, who was at the back, suddenly became nervous. No way. No way. Mad God can't be thinking, no. Big brother, at this time, please don't. Stardust shook his head. Xiao, don't count on it. I bet Mad God will do that. From the day I met him, he won't fight unless he scares a few of his own people to death. Cowherd sighed. After a few years, I thought this brat would be more low-key. Why is he becoming more arrogant? Beishue Gufei looked worried. Big brother, I'm begging you. Can't you fight well? Don't let your future brother-in-law lose all hope. On the other hand, Frost Silk, Frost Dance, Jingui Yanran, and Luo Yao's eyes were shining. That's right, although this guy made people want to kick him to death sometimes, it was this kind of man that made them admire him after watching him fight. At this time, Lu Qin said that sentence. All of you, come at me together. Chapter 886. Sure enough, Lone Tyrant's side didn't disappoint. Although they hadn't started fighting, his words were already much more interesting than the 7 gods behind him, who were still fighting each other. As soon as he said this, the army of immortal cultivators almost collapsed. Did you hear what he said? All together. He wants to take on the entire demonic beast army alone. Oh my god, it's already unbelievable that the Black Qilin defeated the 7 ancient gods by himself. In the end, this guy wants to challenge all of them. I still don't know how strong he is, but I've never seen anyone more arrogant than him. Is this something that a 1-star wild cultivator should say? Even Theo the Great doesn't dare to say anything. The Black Qilin and the other 3 heavenly kings were stunned. Solipsistic, although you have some strength, how dare you look down on the 4 heavenly kings? Alright, since you have such an interesting request, we'll satisfy you. Lu Qin snorted. Where's your boss? Is he still not coming out? You're not qualified to mention our king. We're more than enough to take care of you. Bai Qi, Shi Kun, Torch Dragon, and the 4 heavenly kings came to the front. We'll kill you first, the new origin god, then slaughter the 5 levels of heaven. In front of the 4 giant beasts, Lu Chen was extremely small. It looked like the 4 heavenly kings did not intend to let the demonic beast army attack together. Even the 7 generals did not come out. Lu Chen felt a little regretful. It looked like he had to kill them in a few rounds. If these 4 guys were all upgraded to their divine beast forms, then in the first great divine demon war, Lu Chen would have to face 4 demonic beasts at the same time. It went without saying how terrifying this pressure was. Luo Yao was so nervous that she could not breathe. One had to know that Lu Chen had lost an arm when he killed the 8-eyed evil spirit in his peak state. Lu Yi and the rest did not even dare to blink. The 4 heavenly kings of the demonic beasts were like the top of the 5 levels of heaven. Could brother really defeat the 4 heavenly kings alone? At some point in time, dark clouds gathered in the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. It was as if the heavens and earth were bearing witness to this great battle. Falling dust clutched his chest. Due to his heavy injuries, he couldn't summon any spirit energy to support the 7 gods in their battle against the 3 beasts. However, the solipsistic had spared him, so he could only watch the solipsistic battle. Solipsistic. He recalled Wu Bangcheng's joust for a spouse. That fellow had faced several geniuses by himself. However, things had changed with the passage of time. Now, their identities were different. He trusted Ice God, and that guy had become the new Origin God. The battle was about to begin. Divine Demon Symbiosis. Lu Chen shouted in a low voice and activated the skill. War God Possession. Demon Transformation. 3 Reincarnations. Dragon Blood Boiling, Place of Death. Lu Chen's preparations were a little too many, but they were all instantaneous and could be completed in one go. In an instant, his black hair turned white and his appearance changed greatly. His entire body erupted with astonishing spiritual energy. Not activating soul-body unification. Ha ha ha, solipsistic, you're really arrogant. The black Qilin's smile became sinister. Unfortunately, lions and tigers use all their strength to hunt rabbits. We won't show mercy. The solipsistic's relationship with the magical beast army was too deep. The 4 heavenly kings didn't dare to be careless. The other 3 divine beasts all entered their divine beast true forms. For a moment, there was a gust of wind that made it hard for people to stand steadily. The sky changed color. Dark clouds rolled, thunder roared, and the world turned dark. The most terrifying battle of the 5th heaven had begun. The torch dragon's huge body soared into the sky. The flame in its mouth seemed to be able to illuminate the world. Sun and moon illumination. The world was about to be illuminated by a blinding light. The torch dragon didn't seem to be holding a flame in its mouth, but another sun. Many of the guards had experienced the power of the sun and moon illumination. It was enough to blind a 1,000,000-strong army instantly. The 4 heavenly kings didn't lie. They started with a powerful move. Lu Chen snorted and closed his eyes slightly. Insignificant skill, Heaven's Eye. At the same time, the corpse Kun spewed out thick green smoke from its mouth. It was the Chen corpse poison that countless guards couldn't resist. Corpse corroding poison, 9 netherine poison. No, it's not the Chen corpse poison. The Chen corpse poison should be colorless. A guard general who had participated in the frontline battle widened his eyes. Look, the plants on the ground all rot when they come into contact with the poisonous fog. Only now did everyone see that wherever the green fog passed, all the plants instantly rotted and withered. The ground was charred black. The corpse Kun has a poisonous fog that's even stronger than the Chen corpse poison. Anyone who comes into contact with it will die. This poison is so strong. The white clam giggled. Its body was like a snake as it quickly slithered toward Lu Chen. Solipsistic, I heard that you met Nuwa's remnant soul once. Don't you think I look like her? The white clam was molded by Nuwa according to her appearance. It was almost exactly the same as Nuwa, Lu Chen snorted. So what if you look like her? You're just a replica. She's the god of heaven mending, and you're just a demonic beast that brings chaos to the world. The white clam laughed instead of being angry. Ha 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 ha, well said. I like to bring chaos to the world. Today, I'll start with you. Heaven mending palm. It was actually the heaven mending palm. It was the skill used by Nuwa's remnant soul that day. Unfortunately, Lu Chen noticed that the white clam's heaven mending palm was far inferior to Nuwa's remnant soul. It was just similar in form and spirit. Taking a step back, even if it was the real heaven mending palm, it wouldn't be able to stop Lu Chen. The black Qilin suddenly stomped on the ground, and 8 consecutive cracks spread toward Lu Chen. Try this. Lunar eclipse, eternal dark side. Everyone's hearts were hanging by a thread when they saw this. Heavens, the 4 heavenly kings are actually working together. Sun and moon illumination, 9 netherine poison, heaven mending palm, heaven splitting earth, eternal dark side. Any one of these 5 moves can defeat the 7 gods. But now, all of them are pointing toward the origin god. From all directions, from the sky to the ground, there were light, poison, earth, physical, and spiritual attacks. There were attacks and restrictions. It could be said that the coordination was flawless. Solipsistic, I'll let you be arrogant. You have nowhere to hide, the black Qilin said angrily. At this moment, Lu Chen raised one arm, and a black and white sword gradually appeared in the void. Once this sword appeared, all weapons submitted. What weapon is that? Why does my weapon have no fighting spirit? Could it be a divine weapon? Lu Chen and the limitless sword were probably used to everyone's shock. Lu Chen held the hilt of the limitless sword, but his expression was as calm as still water. Taking a deep breath, Lu Chen placed the limitless sword in front of his chest. The surrounding spiritual energy surged toward the limitless sword like seawater bursting through a dam. The limitless sword instantly exploded with an unprecedented pressure. The black and white fog blended into chaos and exploded, spreading for dozens of miles. For a moment, the billions of weapons that were only trembling slightly earlier actually trembled violently, almost escaping the control of their owners. Luo Yao looked at the purple firmament daybreak in shock. Even the purple firmament daybreak submitted? With just a move, the wind and clouds surged, heaven and earth shook, and the mountains shook. What sword move is this? It's already so earth-shattering from the start. Luo Yao looked at the figure in shock. It seemed that he only had one arm and one sword, but, perhaps one sword was enough. At this moment, Lu Chen slowly said 4 words. One sword. Heaven-splitting sword. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.